Now we are going to start the today's session. First of all, a very good afternoon to all. It's an honor for me to propose the welcome address to everyone who joined with us in this 1 week national e-workshop on research methodology. On behalf of Government Nadi PG College, I offer most gracious welcome to the resource person of today's technical session, Dr. Gyanendra Kumar Rao from Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak, MP. I extend my heartily welcome to respected Principal Professor Aarti Tiwari Madam. I express my warm welcome to Dr. Kavita Krishnamurthy, the convener of this event. I warmly welcome to all members of the organizing committee. I am deeply admired and most welcome to all the participants connected with us from different parts of the country. We are in the last day of this program. Previously, we have discussed on various issues related to research methodology, such as concept and types of research, from literature review to formulation of hypotheses, statistical tools and data analysis, art of academic writing, selection of journal, and plagiarism. Today, we will be discussed on ethical values in research. Basically, ethical values are guiding principles that people use to determine what is right and what is wrong. In context of research, ethical values provide the guidelines to protect the dignity, rights, and welfare of a research work. For a detailed discussion on such topic, Dr. Gyanendra Kumar Rao sir is joined with us. Before starting his lecture, I invite Dr. Kavita Krishnamurthy Madam for introducing Dr. Rao sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Asif sir. So, as you know, today's speaker is Dr. Gyanen Kumar Rao. So, before inviting him for the lecture, I would like to give a brief introduction of him. Dr. Rao is presently working as Associate Professor in Faculty of Education, Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak. He has more than 22 years of teaching experience as lecturer, senior lecturer, reader, and HOD, respectively, in India and abroad at UG and PG level. His areas of specialization are educational technology, spatial education, curriculum development, philosophical and sociological foundation of education, as well as educational research. He worked as senior lecturer in Faculty of Education, University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Dr. Rao has published many articles, research papers in national and international journals of repute, and also attended various national and international conferences in India and abroad. Now, I invite Dr. Rao with all the due respect to deliver his lecture. Sir, over to you. Sir, please on your mic.
Sorry. Thank you, Dr. Kavita Krishnamurthy Madam, to introducing me. So, first of all, I will like to thank all the organizing committee members, basically the first pioneer of the institution, Government Dari PG College, Chirmiri, Principal Professor Aarti Tiwari Madam. So, who has taken all the pen to make this endeavor in the process of success at the last day, today, the last day. So, none other than the person like Dr. Kavita Krishnamurthy, who has given his all the consent and all the strain to start and complete this process of research methodology to faculty development program. Really, I will tell one thing here. When she talked to me, I was also busy somewhere else. So I told her, then she told me that, sir, it is a very long time for 14 days to become out. don't worry about that. So I thought, so Dr. Kavita has that entho to have the pen and making the system of the education to incorporate the research methodology for the academicians to the greater extent. Thank you, madam, for your kind cooperation and making this event to the grand success. Thirdly, Dr. Ashish Pandey, Department of Commerce. So it is a joint venture for the Zoology Department and the Commerce Department. So it's my pleasure to welcome Ashish Pandey, who is none other than the faculty member of the Government Lahari PG College, Chirmiri. So far as both are tried their level best to complete the process. Unfortunately, I could not have attended the earlier days, though I was intended to attend. Yesterday I joined, but I could have failed due to that network problem. Somebody took the phone in between, so naturally we can disconnect it. So anyway, so very good afternoon, all of you. So all the organizers, the secretary, organizing secretary, the principal madam, and the participant friends, all the academicians here. So the participants friends. So I am not a big orator or a big eminent person that to be, because my friends all are here. So I am also a teacher. So all are also teacher here. So we have to discuss the things, what is the ideologies we have and what you have, whether it can be shared or it can be exchanged. None other than like that. So far as the research is concerned, we must have to see whether it is a science, whether it is social science, whether it is a natural science. So we have to think over it, because research very what connotes the repeated search of the things. We have to go again and again. So if we'll go to, I am not going to the deep extent of the research, as my part is given that ethical values. So human beings are always subjective in nature. We cannot objectively identify the things. So research is basically very simple thing, that formal and systematic application of scientific method to study the problem. So for the systematic study or the investigation of something for the purpose of answering questions posed by the researcher. If you go to the educational field, in education research, it is a formal, systematic application of scientific method to study the educational problems. So I'm not going to the research one. I'll come to the, but the one more thing I will tell here, that the very word of the research connotes the letters RESEARCH. Every word has the different meanings. We must have to understand. If you understand the things, definitely we can have the ideas of the research, and ethics will come out from the same thing where the research has been organized. First, the letter R denotes to rational way of thinking. It's very common to all. We must be very rational when we are going to think about the research or doing some work on research. E denotes to expert and exhaustive treatment. We must have the expertiseness in the treatment of the, whether the controlling group or the data interpretation or whatever the work we're doing here. S is about the solution with scientific approach. That is scientific approach. E basically problem or the phenomenon. A, that is analysis of data. R, relationship of the facts. C, careful recording. And the last part is what we are going to discuss, that is honesty and hard work. We must be very honest to do the work, whether it can take time, whether you have to take pain, whether you have to linger the things, but we have to make it very honest and work hard. So these are the ideas of research, but generally the research has been classified in the three categories. That is basic research, basically two, I am making it three. as in the field of the education, I'm making it 3, but it has been 2 categories. One is basic research, which means the extension of knowledge and increasing our understanding of natural and social phenomena. However, the applied research is always the solution of immediate and practical problems. But in case of the action research, which is basically used or conducted by the teachers and administrators for solving a specific problem in their own field. So these are the ideas of research, and so far the ethics, honesty, hard work is concerned. The ethics means honestness is here. There are some moral principles, which is called ethics, that governs a person's behavior. The research ethics may be referred to as doing what is morally and legally right in our research. There are actually norms for conducting that distinguish between the right and wrong, what we are going to be acceptable or unacceptable in our research field or in our behavior. Because if you are going to the social science aspect, it is the behavioral aspect. So we have to judge the right thing or acceptable or unacceptable behaviors. So even though the research ethics have been set out some legislations, there are some registrations, there are also not some legislations. But ethics are the central to the research process, where the researcher needs to take care of various ethical issues at different levels of conducting the research work. The reality is there that it can be ethical concern at every step of the research process where it is going on. But despite of dealing with so many things, we have some limitations. Ethical considerations have been gaining the paramount importance across the research community, where with an increase in the public concern about the limits of the inquiry and legislative changes, we are making the research work to the optimum extent, where we have to make the ethical considerations the prime one or the forefront in social research, because we are dealing with the society where the people are there. So these are the things we have to judge. Most of the issues which are identified by the researchers relation to the respondent, colleague, and other matters. So researchers are themselves responsible for the ethical conduct or ethical issues of their own research, where they have to take care of the things in a professional way. Because with the people in the academic field, we are doing our work, but we have to see. Example, I am giving one more example here. Suppose this is the 10:30, we have the classes. We have to go for the class in 10:30. If we expect that somebody may be late, so all will be late there. So the same thing also will be adapted in the research work. Basically, there are some problems in ethical issues. Yeah, issues are there which have to seen in the undertaking the research work. The research ethics are the common denominators for researchers with relation to the respondent and the colleagues, where it has been identified the most diverse countries of the world. The researcher in India and other countries have to work with a variety of culture. I'm telling about our own country, where we have the diverse nature of culture, society, people. So many things are different. We cannot bind up all the things in a single rope, a single tie of system. So we have to see the things in which condition, where, which ethics or the values are applicable or useful. Taking into that consideration, we have to see the things, and we in this aspect have to see what is the ethical ethos. Ethos means basically finding out whether these things are acceptable to the people or not, or the respondents or not. That's why researcher has to take the sole responsibility for the ethical conduct of their own research. In simple terms, we can say that ethics are the researcher responsibility. If you are a researcher, it is your responsibility how much ethics you are maintained in your own research. First, and the foremost responsibility of the researcher is to take care of the safety, dignity, rights, well-being of the participants, those who are assisting you in your research work. If their rights, their safety, or their dignity is going to be hampered, so your total entire work is going to be collapsed because they will not provide the proper information, adequate information. That's why we have to see both the researcher and the participants have an important role to play where one's right are the other's obligations. Because it is a parallel process where the two sides of the coin are both the researcher and the participants. We cannot avoid them unless until they are not there, our work cannot be completed. So there are two types of obligations. First, the researcher have the obligations, and the second one is the participants' rights. We have to see what is the obligation of the researcher. First, we have to take care the various obligations during the research work. They must ensure that their research is conducted with honesty, objectivity, as well as integrity. So they must respect the people, their cultures, religion, values, economic status, and so on. बहुत सारे चीज ऐसे ही हैं जो हमको देखना पड़ेगा. But the researcher have an obligation to take care the confidentiality and the personal information or the identity of the participants, which is a very important part, as per their choice, not forcibly. हमको देना पड़ेगा, हमको समझाना पड़ेगा, कहना पड़ेगा भाई जो हम काम कर रहे हैं आपको इसमें कोई ज्यादा दिक्कत नहीं होगी. The researcher should have an experiment which may pose a threat to both the participant and the researcher. We have to take into consideration. Any threat must not be there. So in case of the participants' right, this is the researcher obligation. The participants' rights, they have the exclusive right to give consent for the participation. They may withdraw, they may refuse. Hello?
Hello. हेलो.
हेलो.
हाँ सर, सुनाई पड़ रहे होगे. जी हाँ.
हेलो, आवाज आ रही है ना?
यस सर.
बीच में कुछ हो गया, अपने आप फिर वो चल रहा है. Anyway, so actually one more interesting tale here in between the intervention, that what technology. So particularly the researcher part, another one is the participants part, the third one is both researcher and the participants. How they have to maintain the things, the ethics to be maintained, conducted ethically research is public trust. So the researcher must fully practice. it becomes important for the researcher to know what constitutes an ethical research, whether with optimum part of the research is maintained ethics or not. So the different types of methods need different set of the ethical guidelines. If it is a scientific research, if it is on human being or any other thing, that can be considered in separate way. If it is a social science research, it can be also maintained in a cultural diversity, language, different things are there. So first, how the researcher and the participant maintain the ethics. First, number one, the informed consent is the prime responsibility of the researcher. A standard procedure in professional code of ethics is informed consent should be maintained. Number two, the researcher must reveal all the risks associated with the research work to the participants. Suppose if there is any problem, if any risk may come out in between the research work, they must have clearly told it is this purpose, what is the purpose, is this purpose we are going to take this type of information. So there is no need to be afraid of. उनको समझाना पड़ेगा, बताना पड़ेगा, जो काम हम करना चाह रहे हैं, ये आपके लिए कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी, प्रॉब्लम आपको फेस करना नहीं पड़ेगा. And all the negative and the positive aspect of the research during the consent period, उनसे लेना पड़ेगा. अच्छा क्या है, बुरा क्या, ये भी थोड़ा थोड़ा आपको दिक्कत हो सकती है, उनको समझा देना पड़ेगा. The third, the knowledge gap between the researcher and the participant must be considered. आपको ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज देखना पड़ेगा. नॉलेज गैप, जैसे मैं कुछ बता रहा हूं, आप कुछ सुन रहे हैं, जो मैं आप लोगों से उम्मीद कर रहा हूं, आप कुछ और दे रहे हैं, दैट इज कॉल्ड द नॉलेज गैप. या लेवल ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग, मैं जो बता रहा हूं आपसे कुछ समझ पा रहे नहीं पा रहे, दैट मस्ट बी इंटरवेंड और द कंसीडर्ड. एंड द फोर्थ पॉइंट इज बेसिकली द प्राइवेसी, anonymity, confidentiality of the participant and the data. Suppose data means the information, what we are going to gather, must be given due consideration, because as a professional guidelines and some of the cultural concerns are negotiated, where the research project need to be considered carefully with different issues. Next part, that is participants must given an option of rejecting the data gathering device like recording, audio clips or the any recorders. By chance कोई नहीं चाहता है कि आप by chance पर्सनल इन्फॉर्मेशन देना नहीं चाहता है, you must not compel them. To make them convenient and easily understandable, what we have to do, the questionnaire and other forms of rating scales must be designed in the native language of the participants, because India is a country where the different languages and different cultures are there. Still, we are going to the 21st century, even in the 2020, we are not in a position to achieve all the languages. How and where, in which condition, the people are making their own efforts to have they educate themselves. Especially, we are in the field of tribal belts. That जो हमारे जो हिल स्टेशन यहाँ पर है अमरकंटक में. So I had been to so many villages here where they have their own language. They cannot understand the simple language what are going to do the things. So we have to adapt their language where they will be more convenient. In case of the responsibility, in case of the safety of the prime concern, they should not be exposed to risk factors where they encounter any normal lifestyle. They should have to, we have to do the work, conduct the research work within a normal lifestyle, where this lifestyle of the people or the participant must not be interfered or hampered. Then in case of the responsibility of the researcher, they protect to participants from the risk of arising their own research. Then the researcher should protect and promote the right and interest of the participant always who are going to conduct the research work. The researcher must take care of their own safety. अपना भी देखना पड़ेगा, जहां आप डाटा कलेक्शन करने जा रहे हैं, वहां कोई जो है दारू पीने वाला होगा, कोई बदमाश है, डकैत के ऊपर काम करें, प्रिजनर्स के ऊपर काम करें, मर्डर के ऊपर काम करें, बहुत सारी चीजें आपको देखना पड़ेगा, रिस्क फैक्टर्स. She must take care of the cultural, religious, economic, psychological, spiritual, physiological, biological, political, social, as well as the other issues of the participants. हमको देखना पड़ेगा सारी चीज, नहीं तो डाटा आपको नहीं देंगे. The researchers are expected to consider the ethical implication of their own research. क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. ये चला गया आपकी जो है पार्टिसिपेंट एंड द रिसर्चर के बीच में करार. अब जनरल एथिक्स कुछ है. क्या क्या एथिक्स आएगा, मैं धीरे धीरे उसको शॉर्टली आपको बता रहा हूं. Ethics play a paramount role in the study involving the direct human contacts. So the effect of research on subject must be given due consideration. That is, harmless या harmful research should be avoided always. आपको किसी भी तरीके से कोई रिसर्च ले रहे हैं, बाई चांस वो आपके लिए भी हार्मफुल है और पब्लिक के लिए भी हार्मफुल है, उस प्रकार की रिसर्च को बिल्कुल आप अपनाना नहीं चाहिए. Researchers conducting studies involving human subjects must be clearly describe and justify the research protocol in their designs. Where they're making the designs, in which way they are making, how they will do it. This is important part. Each author must be credited in the manuscript. In the same way, all the persons listed in the author or the article should have contributed significantly. आप देखे होंगे बहुत सारे जर्नल पे आपके नाम आता होगा, आर्टिकल 1 का होगा, बाकी लोगों के नाम दिया होगा. इसलिए आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा ना, एवरी ऑथर मस्ट हैव कंट्रीब्यूटेड सेम कंट्रीब्यूशन, सेम वे, सिग्निफिकेंटली टू द both research and the writings. Data management. The data must be collected in a way that does not harm or injure anyone, basically from the respondent part. In order to address and sort out these issues of the conflict, a clear and ethical sound plan of the data management must be carried out for the research work. Besides that, the ethical and the harmful collection, truthful collection of the reliable data, ownership, responsibility of the collected data should be with the colleague and the public area. There must 3 important ethical issues must be taken into consideration there. बहुत सारी चीजें हम पर मैं आपको बता नहीं रहा हूं. Next point हम बात करना चाहते हैं, that is to avoid the plagiarism. Anonymously, if you are putting something which has been done earlier, which has been used earlier, मुझे लगता है कि शायद आपका ऐसा इसके बारे में already एक लेक्चर हो चुका है. Just I am putting the here. Plagiarism also part of the ethics. What the one person has done, what one person has identified, what one person already stated, या published, that must not be reproduced, republished in the same form. That's why the researcher must properly cite the logical या original sources logically. He has to act responsibly and take care of the copyright and intellectual property rights. Self-plagiarism, copying one's own work must be avoided at any cost. You have to try out your level best to make the things at your own efforts. The online duplication, breaking up the segments, slicing the large study into the small one, this is also a part of the ethics. Sometimes what we are doing, same study is done, but the setting is different. We are making, it must be avoided. Avoid any fabrication, falsification, misinterpretation of the data or the result. It means, example, suppose you collected one data for one purpose, you must not use this, reuse the data any other purpose. आपको ये data दूसरे के लिए यूज नहीं करना है. The author should retain the raw data as they may be asked for the data at the time of the editorial review. मुझे एक बार मेरा पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस आपको बता रहा हूँ. When I was in that Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, one of my article was going to be published in a good journal with good impact factor, where they asked for the source of the review. Unfortunately, the same review source I could not have found. So that was rejected. So the researcher should also on our personal and financial interest and must avoid the biasness. The researcher should not launch personal attack against any individual or culture or the religion. It means against anything. आपको नहीं जाना है. They should uphold the moral values and of the society, of its own the society. Act sincerely and do not break the promises to avoid discrimination on the basis of the demography or any other conditions. केयरलेसनेस एंड नेग्लिजेंस मस्ट बी अवॉइडेड, ये भी आपके एथिक्स में आता है। लोग चीज नहीं करेंगे वो हमारे एथिक्स माना जाएगा, बट केयरलेसनेस भी आपके एथिक्स में आता है। नेग्लिजेंस मस्ट कीप record of the things because you have to be ready for the criticism. Somebody will ask things, what is the rationale behind it, so you have to ready for that. The researcher must maintain the confidentiality record of information and contribute the body of the knowledge. Duplication must be always avoided. आपको डुप्लीकेसी जो है अवॉइड करना पड़ेगा। The researcher must abide by the rules and the regulation of the land. Land means where you are going to use the research work, जहां पर आप काम कर रहे हैं। Both humans and animals must be handled carefully. By chance आप आदमी के ऊपर कर रहे हैं या कि जो जानवर के ऊपर कर रहे हैं, आप उसको कैसे हैंडल करेंगे उसको टेक्निक आपको पता होना चाहिए। Both negative as well as positive findings revealed during the course of the research should be reported. कभी-कभी हम क्या करते हैं, जाकर जो सही चीज हमको दिखता है उसको हम रिपोर्ट करते हैं, नेगेटिव चीज को रिपोर्ट नहीं करते। There are the ethics. We have to report the things because if there is a negative things, I'm telling one more point here. If a negative things, there is nothing to be worried about that. You have to put your ideas. This is the result what I found. However, the study cited earlier of the society setting or the human being or the animal, this has been found. आपको प्रूफ कर देना है। Besides, researcher and editor, sponsor, publisher, and reviewer of the research also have the ethical obligation to publish and disseminate the findings of the study because each publication. There must be also editor and sponsorship, publisher ethics must be there. Even if the reviewers also there, you must have listened when you are going to publish any journal. There is a word blind review process. That is also ethics. If I am a reviewer, I must not see, suppose somebody relating to me, related to me, my relative is there, I can accept the article. ये नहीं हो सकता, इसीलिए ऊपर आपके नाम कट जाता है। कुछ कुछ जगह पर मैं देखा हूं, हिंदुस्तान में भी यही है, मेरे पास कभी कुछ जगह आया हुआ है जो रिसर्च प्रपोजल ठीक है कि नहीं है, सजेशन मांगते हैं, उसमें ऊपर उनका नाम काट दिया जाता है। इसलिए टू अवॉइड द डिस्क्रिपेंसी या डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं होना चाहिए, इसलिए उसको करते हैं। देन पीपल हु आर anyhow helped the researcher in conducting the research must be properly acknowledged. ये भी आपकी बड़ा फर्ज बनता है। आपको कोई मदद किया है, चाहे आपकी फील्ड की हो, आपकी कलीग हो, स्टूडेंट हो या इन द वे ऑफ द रिसर्च वर्क, आपको इसको एक्नॉलेज करना चाहिए properly. Most of the young researchers hand the same manuscript to different reviewers, which is not at all in the ethics rules. This such type of practices. Resubmitting an article or the manuscript already published in research paper because it violates the rule or the ethics of the journal. So because international copyright laws, ethical conduct and cost effectiveness user of the resources is going to be hampered. The last part is the findings of the research must be disseminated in an easily understandable report. आप बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेशन लिखेंगे तो लोग इसको समझ नहीं पाएंगे, क्या हुआ है रिसर्च में, क्या निकला है, पता नहीं चल पाएगा. So this is the ideas. Then some of the ethical principles are here. It is now open to all OER. What I will tell you, open education resources. You can put your anything at your fingertips, even mobile, to find out the things. But still, as I am talking about the ethical principles, I am taking some ideas, ethical principles. First, honesty and integrity. It is a major part of the research. You must be a very honest person. It means you need to report your research honestly, what you have found, not bias things, not manipulating the things. इसलिए आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा ना, your integrity should be there. What type of information you are putting, what type of work you are doing, you should not make up any data, you should not manipulate any data. That's why this principle of honesty and integrity will be maintained. Then objectivity. I'm not going to broadly elaborate the things because we have to, madam, there is a limited time, 1 hour, no? Is it time for 1
Yes,
hour?
sir. You can continue. 1 hour or more than. Yeah.
But, oh, that's fine. But my academic colleagues, academic friends must also have the patience to listen to things. Anyway,
Yeah. Yes. Sir.
because talking so many things before the people, if it is not interesting, people will go there. And almost to research part, sometimes it is interesting, sometimes also bore from the people, some extent. Anyway, the objectivity, you should have to avoid bias in any aspect of your research, including design, data analysis, interpretation, peer review. For example, I'm giving one example. You should never recommend a peer reviewer someone you know, because it is against the ethics. Or who have the work with you, you should try to ensure that no groups are inadvertently excluded from your research. This means that you need to disclose any personal interest that may affect your research. ये बहुत important चीज है. Objectively, you have to do the work. Carefulness, taking care in carrying out the research is important part which can avoid careless mistakes. You should also review your work carefully, critically, to ensure that your results are credible. The next principle is openness. You should always be prepared to share your ideas or the information, your result, along with the new tools that you have developed. आपको ये भी देना पड़ेगा. When you publish your findings as the help of the further knowledge, the advanced science, you should also be open the criticism and the new ideas. क्या रिव्यू किया, सॉरी क्या टूल आपने लिया, क्यों लिया, और इसका क्या फायदा मिला, आप दूसरों को बताना पड़ेगा. उस क्रिटिसिज्म के लिए आपको तैयार रहना पड़ेगा. एग्जांपल बता रहा हूं. When we are making a research work, making the tool, we are taking different type of tools. That may be teacher-made tool, that may be a standardized tool, or the self-made tool. First type of tool you have taken, in which context you have to prove it. The respect for the intellectual property. You should never plagiarize or copy other people's work. Try to pass it of own. You should always ask permission before using it from others. That is important. Not doing so is called, in very true sense, plagiarism. आप without information, without consent में काम कर रहे हैं, it is coming under plagiarism. Then next principle is confidentiality. You must respect anything that has been provided in confidence. You should sensitive information what has been collected from the respective respondents. इसलिए आपको ये देखना पड़ेगा, आप जो डाटा दे रहे हैं, लोगों से जो इंफॉर्मेशन ला रहे हैं, वो कितने सही, कितने गलत, और कौन सी चीज को देना चाहिए, कौन सी चीज को नहीं बताना. Then you should publish the responsible publication form to state of the research and the knowledge, and not just to advance your career. कभी-कभी आज की डेट में ज्यादातर हम लोग क्या करते हैं, अपना पब्लिकेशन कितना बढ़ेगा उसी हिसाब से काम करते हैं. We are not doing the work to publicize, but the prime work or the result what has been done by you. The responsible mentoring, it helps to educate, mentor, and advise students, promote their welfare, and allow them to make their own decisions. अच्छा mentor करने के लिए मौका मिलता है. Respect for the colleagues. Your colleague those who are involved with you must be treat them fairly. Then in addition to that, there are also other responsibilities, that is social responsibility. What is that? Strive to promote social good and prevent or mitigate social harms through research. जैसे कुछ काम हम करेंगे, पब्लिक को कुछ दिक्कत हो, ऐसा काम हमको नहीं करना है. जैसे एडवोकेसी, एग्जाम्पल बता रहा हूं, एड्स एजुकेशन हो, चाइल्ड अब्यूज हो, आपकी जो वुमेन एक्सप्लोटेशन हो, ये सारी के चीज का आपको थोड़ा देखना पड़ेगा. In which way, in a responsible manner, you are contributing yourself to the society. Non-discrimination, avoid discrimination knowledge in research that against colleague or the students. ये मेरा जान पहचान नहीं है, इसके ऊपर डाटा अच्छा नहीं लिखूंगा, ये discrimination नहीं चलेगा. If you will do that, for the temporarily you will be relieved, but the long run you will be failed. ऑटोमेटिकली आपको आने वाला टाइम में दिक्कत फेस करना पड़ेगा। देन द कॉम्पिटेंस, maintain and improve your own professional competence. If you're writing your own skill in one way, putting the ideas of others, making your own effort, that will call for the good competence in research. Next, that is legality. You should always be aware of the laws and the regulations that govern your work. Without out of the purview of law, you cannot do the work. जो आपकी जैसे एग्जाम्पल बता रहा हूँ, ह्यूमन राइट्स वायोलेशन है, चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन राइट वायोलेशन है, राइट टू एजुकेशन वायोलेशन है, इसके ऊपर आप काम नहीं कर सकते, उसको मेंटेन करके आप काम करना पड़ेगा। एनिमल केयर, सपोज यू आर इन डूइंग सम वर्क ऑन एनिमल्स, if you are doing animals in your research, you should always be sure that your experiments are both necessary and well designed for that study. You should also show the respect for the animals in which way you are using them. जूलॉजी वालों को ज्यादा पता होगा इसके बारे में, हम तो एजुकेशन वाले हम सुन के आपको बता रहे हैं। ह्यूमन सब्जेक्ट प्रोटेक्शन, इसमें क्या होता है कि इफ योर रिसर्च इन्वॉल्व्स पीपल, you should make sure that you reduce any possible harm to the minimum extent and maximize minimum harm, maximize the benefits, which will both to the participant as the society or the people. Respect for the persons, जो लोग आपकी फील्ड में काम कर रहे हैं, when you are conducting the research on human beings and human subjects, minimize the harms and risk of maximize benefits, because respect to human dignity, privacy and autonomy is utmost important. आप रिसर्च करें ना करें, उनसे क्या उनको क्या जाता है, कहेंगे यार भाव हम नहीं देंगे इन्फॉर्मेशन, आप क्या कर सकते हैं, इसलिए उनको आपको मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा। तो इसमें बहुत सारी चीज हमारे पास आएगा। whenever we are conducting a research, how we have to take care of the persons, respect to the persons. If it is a categorical person, child, old age, middle age, pervasive, different categories people are there. Then beneficence, research should be worthwhile and provide value that outweighs and risk or harm. Basically, researchers should always aim to maximize the benefit of the research. आप कोई काम कर रहे हैं, किसी को फायदा नहीं मिल रहा है, ना पब्लिक को, ना आपको, ना सोसाइटी को, तो फिर इस रिसर्च को करने का कोई मतलब नहीं है। इसीलिए बेनिफिट का आपको देखना पड़ेगा, जो डिस्कवरिंग द न्यू फैक्ट्स, conducting the new work which can give a light to the society, making the way to improve the suggesting methods of teaching, academic development, ये बहुत सारी चीजों को देखना पड़ेगा जो बेनिफिट मिल सकता है। Then come to the part that is one, justice. Justice का जहां तक बात है, we can tell research should be just between the different members in group in society. The justice, the principle of justice in relation to research is equal treatment. This is for the persons. And injustice occurs when some benefit to which a person is entitled or denied to them. इसका मतलब ये है, आप किसी भी जगह जहां पर जो भी काम करते हैं, कुछ लोगों को फायदा मिलता है, कुछ लोगों को फायदा नहीं मिलता है। ये injustice to the society, injustice to the people. इसीलिए फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं इसमें एक दे सकता हूँ। सपोज सिलेक्टिंग ए पार्टिसिपेंट, सैंपल डिजाइन, सैंपल जो है आप जो कलेक्ट करते हैं, रिसर्च पार्टिसिपेंट नीड टू बी स्क्रूटिनाइज्ड इन ऑर्डर टू डिटरमिन whether some class, some race, some gender, some person are not going to be hampered. हम जैसे लेते हैं एग्जाम्पल बताओ स्ट्रैटिफाइड रैंडम सैंपलिंग प्रोसीजर, जब डाटा कलेक्शन करेंगे ऑलमोस्ट ऑल डाटा या डाटा से हमको लाना पड़ेगा जो है इंफॉर्मेशन, ताकि कोई छूट ना जाए। Then informed consent requires the research staff and the participant should give an appropriate. किस के बारे में तीन चीज के बारे में बताना पड़ेगा। फर्स्ट, कंसेंट आपको कैसे लेना पड़ेगी, इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट द रिसर्च, किसके ऊपर आप काम कर रहे हो। दूसरा, इन ए कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव मैनर, ऐसा नहीं कि बहुत सारी चीज देंगे लोग समझ में नहीं आएगा। विदाउट ड्यू और इनअप्रोप्रिएट इंड्यूसमेंट, जबरदस्ती आप नहीं करेंगे, अप्रोप्रिएटनेस वहां रहना चाहिए। तो इंफॉर्मेशन शुड इंक्लूड रिसर्च प्रोसीजर, पर्पस, रिस्क, anticipated benefits and the consequences. ये सारे चीज वहां पर रखना पड़ेगा और लोगों को बताना पड़ेगा ये हो सकता है, ये मिल सकता है, तो इसके लिए आपको तैयार रहना पड़ेगा। उसमें बहुत सारी चीज आपको मिलेगी, कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवनेस रहेगा, स्पेशल प्रोविजन रहेगा, वॉलंटरीनेस भी रहेगा। आप अपने आप हिसाब से काम कर सकते हैं और किसी को स्पेशल प्रोविजन देंगे भाई इसके लिए थोड़ा मतलब कैटेगोरिकली सोशियो इकोनॉमिकली डाउन है, इनको ये सुविधा देना पड़ेगा, या फिर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव बताना पड़ेगा कि चीजें इस तरीके से हो सकती है। देन कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी के बाद हम कहेंगे इंटीग्रिटी। इंटीग्रिटी क्या होती है ना, इट शुड बी डिजाइन्ड, reboot and undertaken to ensure recognized standard of integrity to meet as well as the quality and transparency of the research work which is assured। जो काम आप करना चाहते थे वो एग्जैक्टली इसमें है कि नहीं इसको देखना पड़ेगा। दैट इज कॉल्ड इंटीग्रिटी। एग्जांपल, fabrication of the things, creation of false data or any other including the documentation, participant consent, ये सारी चीजें आपको देखना पड़ेगा। दैट इज कॉल्ड द इंटीग्रिटी ऑफ द रिसर्च। देन द लास्ट पार्ट इज दैट इज कॉल्ड द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट। it is very simple one. What is the conflict of interest? Now the interdependence of the research should be clear and any conflict of interest or partially should be explicit. A conflict of interest arises when a researcher's obligation to the institution or a foundry to conduct research independently is likely to be compromised or may appear to be compromised। आपको मतलब हुआ बहुत सारी जगह पर थोड़ा क्लास होता है, इसको हम कहते हैं कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट। इसलिए हमको क्या करना पड़ेगा, दिस कैन बी बिकॉज, कारण क्या हो सकता है कि पर्सनल गेन टू द मेंबर ऑफ द फैमिली, इसको जब हम दिमाग के रखते हैं हम थोड़ा कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो जाते हैं। हैव कमिटमेंट एंड ऑब्लिगेशन टू अनदर पर्सन और एनीबॉडी दैट मे अपीयर टू एक्ट टू द पोटेंशियल इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ द रिसर्च वर्क। आप किसी को बात दिए हैं कि भाई आपको थोड़ा फायदा मिलेगा, बाई चांस नहीं होता है, वहां पर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आता है। So there may be an appearance of conflict of interest even when no conflict actually exists। कभी-कभी ये भी हो सकता है कि कहीं-कहीं नहीं होता है, अपने आप निकल के आ जाता है। इसलिए researcher must disclose anything that may be perceived by others as a potential conflict of interest। आपको ध्यान देना पड़ेगा जहां कोई चीज को लेकर दिक्कत पैदा ना हो। ये चला गया आपकी जनरली जो आपकी जो गाइड जो जिसको कहते हैं हमारा जो प्रिंसिपल्स था। बट लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ द रिसर्च एथिक्स या हमारे जो एथिकल वैल्यूज, दैट इज कॉल्ड सम गाइडलाइंस। द गाइडलाइंस में दो तीन प्रकार के उसको आपको बता रहा हूं। दैट इज रिसर्च एथिक्स, रेस्पेक्ट फॉर द इंडिविजुअल्स, रिगार्ड्स फॉर द ग्रुप, द इंस्टीट्यूशन, एंड द लास्ट वन इज द रिसर्च कम्युनिटी। चार कैटेगरीज है where what type of guidelines should be mentioned or used। जहां तक हम गाइडलाइन की बात करते हैं, if we'll come to the guidelines, basically the guidelines are one of the indicators in which way you are going to undertake the research work with all the ethical consent। The first part of the ethics here comes out some of the ethical standards or the guidelines to serve the same function of the law। जैसे हमारी कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में कुछ काम आप करते हैं, आप इसको नहीं करेंगे। एग्जांपल बता रहा हूं, आईपीसी इंडियन पेनल कोड है, उसी इंडियन पेनल कोड को लेकर ही हम कोर्ट में आर्गुमेंट करेंगे। ऐसे हमारे पास बहुत सारे प्रिंसिपल्स है या गाइडलाइंस है, उसी को लेकर हम एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड जजमेंट करेंगे, एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड को जो है होल्ड करेंगे। इसीलिए हमारे पास कुछ गाइडलाइंस है। जैसे फर्स्ट बता रहा हूं, the researcher shall adhere to research ethics standards, for example requirement regarding honesty, impartiality, to accept their fallibility means no faults। उनको देखना पड़ेगा, क्लियरली मानना पड़ेगा, पार्शियली नहीं करना चाहिए। ये बहुत सारी चीजों को हमको देखना पड़ेगा। इसलिए जैसे एग्जांपल बता रहा हूं, थोड़ी पहले से बताया था, cultural social studies deals with human choices where the actions and the relations are maintained। The standard of the institution, benefit of the historical development, works of the tradition, language, thoughts, communications, almost all are coming in this aspect where we have to take it honestly and impartially। whether and the willingness to accept. By chance वो सही नहीं है, हमको उसको ग्रहण करना पड़ेगा, एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ेगा. In many disciplines, there are the honest documentation and the consistent reasoning are absolute requirements for the research, regardless of scholar's position, situation, view of the theory, etc. चाहे आपकी थ्योरी कुछ हो, सिचुएशन कुछ हो, बट आपको ये देखना पड़ेगा कि फंडामेंटल क्वेश्चन साइंटिफिक थ्योरी में क्या करना पड़ेगा, ऑनेस्ट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन एंड कंसिस्टेंट रीजनिंग आपको रखना पड़ेगा. नंबर 2, सोशल एंड कल्चरल एज वेल एज दी, या इसको कहते हैं रिसर्च ऑन दी सोसाइटी, कल्चर एंड दी लैंग्वेज. इसको ऊपर ध्यान देकर हमको काम करना पड़ेगा. इसमें आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, the research policy institutions ought to give priority to research efforts so that they directly or indirectly or in short or the long term can benefit to the culture, society as well as the language. एग्जाम्पल बता रहा हूं. मान लिया जाए कोई काम हम करना चाहते हैं इंटेंशनली और अनइंटेंशनली, जानबूझ के और अनजान में, जो भी हम काम होता है उसका इंपैक्ट कभी कभी सोसाइटी के ऊपर होता है, कभी कभी अच्छा इंपैक्ट होता है, कभी कभी बुरा इंपैक्ट होता है. तो हमको देखना पड़ेगा कि ये जो हम काम करना चाह रहे हैं क्या कोई बुरा असर पड़ता है सोसाइटी के ऊपर. इफ एनी इंपैक्ट ऑफ नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट इज कमिंग, सो वी हैव टू अवॉइड दिस टाइप ऑफ रिसर्च. दैट इज वन एथिकल पार्ट. ये हमारे जो है रिसर्च एथिक के ऊपर जा रहा है. देन इसमें तो बहुत सारे चीज मैं आपको बताना नहीं चाह रहा हूं क्योंकि इट इज वेरी लॉन्ग प्रोसेस. सो रिसर्च इनटू आवर ओन एंड अदर कल्चर्स कैन हेल्प अस. क्या क्या फायदा हमको मिल सकता है बता रहे हैं. हेल्प अस टू एक्सप्लोर. जैसे आपको पता है कि इंडियन कल्चर में हम बात हैं कि एक सेंटेंस, एक वर्ड बता रहा हूं, ट्रांसमिशन ऑफ कल्चर. हाउ इट कैन बी ट्रांसमिटेड? इफ विल सी अदर्स कल्चर, if we adopt others culture, if we respect others culture and the vice versa, वो भी हमारे कल्चर को रेस्पेक्ट करेंगे. इसलिए अब हम जाके मस्जिद में नमाज नहीं पढ़ सकते हैं, मंदिर में जाके पूजा नहीं कर सकते हैं, पर उसको तो रेस्पेक्ट दे सकते हैं. तो दैट इज द रिसर्च पॉलिसी. रिसर्च इनटू आवर ओन अदर कल्चर्स कैन हेल्प टू नो और एक्सप्लोर values and the standards that characterize today's way of thinking and that can disclose underlying power structures, the power of the society, power of the culture. ये क्या होगा ना, research on cultural heritage can help to substantiate, क्या, disprove and review the values, standards and institutions that we trust and want to pass on the prosperity. जब हमको डेवलप करना है, आगे बढ़ना है, सभी के कल्चर को लेना पड़ेगा, सभी के बारे में हमको आइडिया होनी चाहिए. Then come to the next part, the importance of independent research. उसी में आता है जो गाइडलाइन में, the research institutions and the research policy bodies, different type things are there. Research institutions and research policy bodies are to facilitate, क्या क्या करना पड़ेगा, free and independent research. आपको कोई बात नहीं करना पड़ेगा कि इसी इन्होंने हमको फंडिंग दिया है, इन्होंने कुछ स्पॉन्सर किया है, इनके बारे में कुछ ना लिखेंगे हम. इसलिए क्या करना पड़ेगा, the institutions must ensure that research that compiles with scholarly quality requirements the intrinsic need of the research for the originality, transparency, and with the conflict that some parties desire to prevent the topics, or the research must be safeguarded against the control from the inside of the outside of the interferences, with all founded problems of discussion that are at loggerheads with particular financial, political, social, cultural, or religious interest or the tradition. आप इस तरीके से चीज को लेकर बायसनेस क्रिएट नहीं कर सकते. Then the communication and the enforcement of the research ethics. उसमें हमारे पास क्या आएगा ना, the institution and individual researcher is to develop and maintain good research practice. The institutions are to have promote या procedures to enforce breach of research ethics standard. उनको जो कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट जिसको कहते हैं बनाना चाहिए. इसलिए तो रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल एंड द इंस्टीट्यूशंस जो आवश्यकता के हिसाब से आदमी को या लोगों को या इंस्टीट्यूशन को जो जैसे चाहिए, the institution should pave the way for development and maintenance of the good research practice. Institutions must convey the guidelines. जैसे एग्जांपल बता रहा हूं, आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी में जो रिसर्च चल रहा है, उस रिसर्च में आपके पास क्या क्या चीज है, क्या ये रिसर्च इस यूनिवर्सिटी के लिए यूजफुल हो सकता है, एक स्क्रीनिंग कमेटी होना चाहिए। वो स्क्रीनिंग कमेटी क्या करेगा, कितना सही है कितना गलत है, उसको देखकर इसको अप्रूव करेगा, तब जाके आगे इसका काम चल सकता है या काम आप कर सकते हैं। What it will do, इसका क्या असर पड़ेगा? This will promote the reflection in research ethics and encourage more explicit discussions in basic research communities about the dilemmas arised relating to the research ethics. जो बहुत सारे कभी कभी दिक्कत हमको आता है, हमको समझ में नहीं आता है, तब ये चीज चलता रहेगा, लोग क्लियर हो जाएंगे कि ये चीज को हमको नहीं करना है। इसलिए the institutions must take care of the responsibility for following the guideline of research ethics. There must be specific procedure या use या handle the suspicious and related of the breach of the guidelines. Example, committee बनाना चाहिए with scientific degeneracy, different categories, different fields से, ताकि वो बड़ी अच्छी तरीके से उसको चूज करे और इसको डिस्क्रिमिनेट करे कौन सी रॉन्ग कौन सी राइट है। ये चला गया आपकी रिसर्च एथिक्स वाला। देन रेस्पेक्ट टू द इंडिविजुअल्स, इसके हम क्या करना पड़ेगा, मैं इसको थोड़ा स्किप कर रहा हूं क्योंकि आपके हिसाब से हमारा टाइम शायद को पहुंच गया है, मैं इसको जल्दी जल्दी कंप्लीट कर रहा हूं। द ऑब्लिगेशन टू द रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन डिग्निटी, किसी भी हालत में आप कहीं पे भी काम करिए, किसी भी अच्छा काम करिए, योर द इंडिविजुअल डिग्निटी मस्ट नॉट बी हैम्पर्ड, इसको आपको देखना पड़ेगा। दूसरा, ऑब्लिगेशन टू रेस्पेक्ट इंटीग्रिटी, फ्रीडम एंड राइट टू पार्टिसिपेट्स। कुछ लोगों को आप लाएंगे, कुछ लोगों को छोड़ देंगे, कुछ लोगों को आप ध्यान देंगे, कुछ लोगों को नहीं देंगे, ये नहीं हो सकता है। इसलिए रिसर्चर्स शैल रेस्पेक्ट देयर सब्जेक्ट इंटीग्रिटी, फ्रीडम एंड राइट टू पार्टिसिपेट्स। इसमें बहुत सारी चीजें आता है, सेल्फ रेस्पेक्ट आएगा, आपकी जो है इंडिविजुअल एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेशन रहेगा, इंडिविजुअल लिमिटेड टू एबिलिटी टू लुक आफ्टर द ओन नीड्स इंटरेस्ट, इसमें नहीं होना चाहिए। ये सारी चीज को हमको कंसीडर करना पड़ेगा। इसके साथ ही साथ इंडिविजुअल कैटेगरी में द ऑब्लिगेशन टू प्रिवेंट हार्म एंड सफरिंग, जो पहले मैंने थोड़ा हिंट्स दिया था, किसी भी प्रकार ह्यूमन बीइंग को हार्म सफरिंग नहीं होना चाहिए आपकी रिसर्च की वजह से। देन ऑब्लिगेशन टू इन्फॉर्म रिसर्च सब्जेक्ट्स, इसमें क्या होना चाहिए, द रिसर्च सब्जेक्ट्स आर टू बी गिवन all the information they require to gain a reasonable understanding to the field of research in question, of the consequence of the participating in the research projects, and the subject shall also be informed about who is funding the research. ये आपको क्लियरली बताना पड़ेगा, तभी लोगों को जो है इंटरेस्ट वहां पर रहेगी, आप कुछ सिक्योरिटी नहीं रख सकते हैं। Then the obligation to maintain या obtain फ्री एंड इन्फॉर्म्ड कंसेंट, आपके कंसेंट भी चाहिए। क्या करना पड़ेगा, इट इज ए जनरल रूल दैट रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट दैट इंक्लूड इंडिविजुअल कैन बी इनिशिएटेड ओनली आफ्टर securing participants free and informed consent. ये जो डाटा आप कलेक्शन करना चाह रहे हैं, ये डाटा जिससे आप लाएंगे उनसे आप कंसेंट लेना पड़ेगा, क्या आप इसके लिए दे सकते हैं या आपकी ये डाटा देंगे, हमारा कुछ काम में आ सकता है, इस तरीके से उनको जो कंसेंट लेना पड़ेगा। तो इसीलिए लाइसेंस एंड ऑब्लिगेशन टू द रिपोर्ट, ये भी बहुत जरूरी चीज है, जिसमें इंडिविजुअल रेस्पेक्ट भी मिलता है। ऑल रिसर्च एंड स्टूडेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स दैट इन्वॉल्व द प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ पर्सनल डाटा मस्ट बी रिपोर्टेड, जहां जहां से आप लाए हैं, जिन जिन से आप मदद लिए हैं, सबको देखना पड़ेगा। द रिगार्ड फॉर द थर्ड पार्टीज, थर्ड पार्टीज आप समझते हैं कि नहीं है, जैसे क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च में डाटा इनडायरेक्टली डाटा कलेक्शन करते हैं। Researchers should consider and anticipate the effect of the third parties that are not directly included in the research. Suppose हम डाटा स्टूडेंट से ले रहे हैं, स्टूडेंट के साथ साथ उनका पेरेंट भी इन्वॉल्व है उसमें, मान लिया जिनका मेंटल एबिलिटी हो, हाउस होल्ड एक्टिविटी हो, इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस हो, जो भी है उसमें उनका पेरेंट भी इन्वॉल्व है, फैमिली भी इन्वॉल्व है। इसीलिए हमको क्या करना पड़ेगा, थर्ड पार्टी को जो है रिगार्ड देना पड़ेगा। चिल्ड्रंस राइट प्रोटेक्शन, when children and the young people participate in the research, we must have to consider that their interests should be protected and that should be commensurate with their age and the needs. किस टाइम, कौन सी एज में किसको क्या रखना चाहिए, छोटे छोटे बच्चों को ये काम नहीं करना चाहिए, किनको कौन सी काम देना चाहिए, उसको हमको ध्यान देना पड़ेगा. The obligation to respect individuals' privacy and the close relationship. बाई चांस इसी चीज का कोई हमको इन्फॉर्मेशन देते हैं, उसको भी हमको ऑब्लिगेट करना पड़ेगा, ऑब्लिगेशन रहना पड़ेगा कि रेस्पेक्ट करने के लिए. रिसर्चर सेल्फ शो ड्यू रेस्पेक्ट फॉर इंडिविजुअल प्राइवेसी. बाई चांस आप प्राइवेट किसी प्राइवेसी या डाटा में किसी का प्राइवेसी है, आप इसको डिस्क्लोज नहीं कर सकते, नहीं करना चाहिए, भी एथिक्स में आता है. दैट इज रेस्पेक्ट टू द इंडिविजुअल में जो पॉइंट है उसमें आता है. देन द ऑब्लिगेशन टू रेस्पेक्ट कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी. बाई चांस आपको कोई चीज किसी रेस्पोंडेंट ने कॉन्फिडेंशियली बता दिया है, कॉन्फिडेंशियल लाए हैं, तो आप उसको जो डिस्क्लोज नहीं कर सकते हैं, ये भी आपकी एथिक्स के खिलाफ है. देन द ऑब्लिगेशन टू रेस्ट्रिक्ट रीयूज. आप जिस पर्पस के लिए डाटा कलेक्शन किए थे, ये भी गाइडलाइन बताता है कि आप उसी पर्पस के लिए यूज करिए, बाकी दूसरे पर्पस के लिए यूज मत करिए. Because the data collected for the purpose what is intended must not be reused. Then requirement for the shortage of information that can identify the individuals. It means the data related to the identifiable individuals shall be stored responsibly, and such data shall not be stored any longer. कभी कभी बहुत दिन डाटा रखने के बाद वो बिल्कुल इसका यूज नहीं होता है. Which that is needed to be attain the subject ऑब्जेक्टिव फॉर व्हिच इट वाज प्रोसेस्ड. आप डाटा कलेक्शन करके लाए 2 साल से पहले, और आप इसको इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हैं और 2 साल से बाद, तो इसमें रहेगा क्या, हो सकता है उस डाटा में कुछ चीज गड़बड़ हो गया है, कुछ नया इंफॉर्मेशन आ गया है, इसलिए इसका कोई महत्व नहीं रहता है. रेस्पेक्ट फॉर जो है पोस्टमॉस रेपुटेशन. कॉशन शुड बी टेकन एक्सरसाइज व्हेन द डिसीज्ड पीपल आर द सब्जेक्ट ऑफ रिसर्च. उसको भी ध्यान देना पड़ेगा. ऑलरेडी जो लोग डेड लोग हैं, उनके बारे में कोई बाई चांस काम कर रहे हैं, उसको हमको ध्यान देना पड़ेगा, उसको उनको भी रेस्पेक्ट देना पड़ेगा. रेस्पेक्ट फॉर द वैल्यू एंड द मोटिव ऑफ अदर्स. किसी दूसरे की आइडिया वैल्यू को हम जो हैम्पर नहीं करेंगे, उसको भी हम ध्यान देंगे. एंड द लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ इंडिविजुअल रेस्पेक्ट में आएगा रिसर्चर्स रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर क्लियर रोल डेफिनेशन. इसमें यह करना पड़ेगा कि रिसर्चर आर रेस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर एक्सप्लेनिंग द रिसर्च सब्जेक्ट, द लिमिटेशन, एक्सपेक्टेशंस, रिक्वायरमेंट दैट पर्टेन टू द रोल ऑफ एज ए रिसर्चर. एक अच्छा रिसर्चर के हिसाब से क्या आपको होना है, क्या लिमिटेशन है, क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन था और क्या रिक्वायरमेंट, ये सब कुछ जो है आप जो है क्लियरली डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा. देन मैडम, डू आई गेट दी कंप्लीट दिस वन और कंक्लूड?
Sir, conclude yours.
Conclude?
Yes.
Conclude, na?
Yes, sir.
Okay, madam. So there are other part we think that is the regard for the group of the institution. जैसे हमने इंडिविजुअल के बारे में बात किया था जो गाइडलाइंस, ऐसे कुछ ग्रुप गाइडलाइंस भी है जो ग्रुप और इंस्टीट्यूशन के लिए एंड रिसर्च कम्युनिटी के लिए, वेयर द रिसर्च वर्क इज गोइंग ऑन. इस प्रकार की गाइडलाइंस, बहुत सारे गाइडलाइंस है, मैं इसको एलाबोरेट करना नहीं चाह रहा हूँ. लास्ट पार्ट में आपको बताऊंगा जो थोड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट इंडियन कंटेस्ट है, एथिकल इश्यूज इन इंडिया कहाँ कहाँ होता है. तो इंडियन रिसर्चर शुड गिव, क्या क्या काम करना पड़ेगा, 2-4 लाइन करके आपको कंक्लूड कर देता हूँ. बिकॉज almost all work what we are doing, the research work in India is concerned with the Indian territory. इसलिए एग्जांपल बता रहा हूं. सपोज wearing व्हाइट साड़ी, आपको एक व्हाइट साड़ी जो आप पहनते हैं, तो एक क्रिश्चियन लेडी जब एक व्हाइट साड़ी पहनता है, उसको हम कहते हैं जो है दुल्हन मानते हैं. बट द सेम साड़ी व्हाइट वाला जब कोई हिंदू लेडी पहनता है, उसको हम क्या कहेंगे, उसको विडो मानेंगे. इसलिए the cultural context, ethnic context, we have to make the ideas different. इसलिए the depth of knowledge should be there with the researcher in which and where what to be done. इसलिए तो Indian researchers should give utmost importance to the cultural diversity and the religious diversity of the country. आपको पता होगा, चाहे हमारी नेशनल करिकुलम फ्रेमवर्क हो, इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हो, वहां पर बिल्कुल लिखा हुआ है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में हमारा जो प्रीएम्बल लिखा गया है, बहुत सारे चीज को हमको ध्यान देना पड़ेगा. कल्चरल इथोस ऑफ द कंट्री शुड बी कंसीडर्ड व्हेयर मेंटेनिंग और डूइंग एनी वर्क. इसलिए दे मस्ट वर्क टू प्रमोशंस ऑल द कल्चर्स, रिलीजन्स, नॉट द अदर वे अराउंड. इसको बहुत देखना पड़ेगा. एथनिक कमिटी भी आना पड़ेगा, जो हमको यूनिवर्सिटी में आ इंस्टीट्यूशन में जहां पर रिसर्च वर्क चल रहा है, we must be very vigilant whether this type of research which is not going to intervene the interest of the different categories people, different geographical conditions should be considered and must not be allowed. Then the committee should act as the mediator or the advisor to disputed things, whether it should be allowed or not. These committees should be a part of the research guideline of any institution where we are conducting the research. At last, the thesis of the paper which is going to be submitted for the perusal of these committees should be given earlier, as well as the ongoing researches, what is not finalized, that should be also informed. एंड इसमें हमारे सारा बहुत सारे चीज होती है कि जो कमेटी बनता है, हमारी सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन में कमेटी बनना चाहिए जो इसको स्क्रीनिंग करे, देखे कोई कंफ्लिक्ट अराइज होता है या कोई इश्यूज आता है उसको सॉल्व करे. दैट विल बी बेटर फॉर द रिसर्चर एज वेल एज द रिसर्च कंडीशन ऑफ रिसर्च एनवायरनमेंट ऑफ द कंट्री. थैंक यू ऑल एंड वन हियर लिसनिंग टू मी. बेसिकली द वेरी, जिसको हम कहते हैं, कभी कभी जब हम पढ़ाते रहते हैं बड़ा बोरिंग सेशन लगता है. मुझे नहीं लगा कि आप कितने बोरिंग हुए होंगे. प्लीज टेल योर बोरिंगनेस थ्रू योर डिस्कशन या दैट इज सप्लीमेंटेशन. So it is open to all. If anything you want to have, because you are all the academicians, if you want to have some academic discussion, it is open to all for discussion.
Thank you, sir, for the very useful and wonderful session. Now I request Dr. Ashish Pandey, sir, to put forward a few questions asked by the participants. Sir, I'm sure you are happy to answer them.
Yes.
Sir, on behalf of participants, I want to know that whether any difference between ethics and values.
There are the differences. There are obvious differences in ethics and the values. Values are concerned to the human beings, made by the societies. Ethics are the rules and the regulations. What to do and what not to do. Though ethics is a part of a value, but distinction between ethics and values, example I am giving to you, health values. It means what I should do to improve my health and my health of the surroundings. That is health values. Social values, what society expects from us and what we expect from the society. Different values, we have the different values we have. It's intellectual values, then the physical values, emotional values. बहुत सारे values हमारे पास है. You are the human being, we have the values. When it is concerned to the society or the rules, it is called the ethics. And we have to maintain the ethics as a part of that parameter where we are involved. हम जहां पर हम जुड़ के रह रहे हैं, हमारे पास एक तो वैल्यू है. दो प्रकार वैल्यू हमारे पास है. एक तो इंडिविजुअल वैल्यू है. When these individual values are collectively incorporated, it is called the societal values or the value of the society, because individual is consisting of the society, and the ethics are the part of the societal values, or the I can say in the research aspect. If it is research, ethics has the different values, sorry, meanings. In research aspect it is different, other aspect it is different. If it is a research aspect, what should be done, what should not be done, with your value concern. How much value pertaining to you to do this work, and what is should not be done, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. ये value part, sorry, ethics part में आता है. As a professional or an academician, you must have to understand what to do and what not to do. कभी-कभी दूसरों के भी interest को हमको ध्यान देना पड़ता है. This is what I understand the difference.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation, which makes this session very interesting and knowledgeable. It's really helpful for participants to improve their knowledge, as all we know that today is the last session of this program. Now we are moving to the valedictory session, and for this I invite Dr. Krishmurthy madam for proceeding this. Over.
Thank you very much, sir. So once again, I welcome you all in the validatory session of this one-week national e-workshop on research methodology. It's my privilege and honor to welcome revered chief guest of this session, Professor S.N. Upadhyay, associated with Department of Chemical Engineering and Technology, IIT BHU, as honorary research professor, and Rajiv Gandhi Petroleum Technology Institute as honorary adjunct professor. Sir, we are privileged that we have such esteemed and experienced person as chief guest of this session. I am deeply honored to welcome eminent speaker of the day, Dr. Raut sir. I extend my warm welcome to Professor Gyan Prakash Singh, who has joined us today. I extend my gracious welcome to our respected principal and patron, Professor Aarti Tiwari madam. I extend my warm welcome to Ashish Kumar Pandey, organizing secretary. I welcome all the dignitaries, faculty, and participants. As we know, this workshop has been started from 8th September on the occasion of International Literacy Day. During this virtual meeting, we are fortunate enough to listen remarkable speakers covering different topics of research methodology. On the first day of this event, Professor Raghuvanshi, chief guest of the inaugural session, enlightened us over concept of scientific research and its essential ingredients and principle. Then Professor Nagendra Kumar elaborated the concept of types of research, particularly in context of social science. Then on the second day's technical session, Dr. Paramanik focused on basics of review of literature to origin of hypothesis. His lecture was pertaining to purpose and function of literature review, silo and thematic approaches for synthesizing and organizing of a review literature. On the third day's technical session, Professor Gyan Prakash Singh had given concept of data analysis with the help of some statistical tools and cleared our basic concepts. On the fourth day's technical session, Dr. Mahajan had given idea of tools and techniques which are available for academic writing. On the fifth day's technical session, Dr. Patel discussed on the criteria for selection of suitable journals. On the sixth day's technical session, Dr. Dwivedi spoke on the topic of plagiarism. He has explained the types of plagiarism and tools and techniques available to avoid this. And today's technical session, Dr. Raut has awared us on ethical values of research. So I heartily thanks to all the speakers for covering these topics very beautifully. Now, I would like to invite our principal, Professor Aarti Tiwari Madam, to welcome our chief guest of this session and to say something on this occasion. Aarti Tiwari Madam, over to you. Yes, ma'am.
सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। आज महाविद्यालय में आयोजित ई वर्कशॉप कार्यशाला के अंतिम दिवस में आज के मुख्य अतिथि प्रोफेसर एस.एन. उपाध्याय आईआईटी बीएचयू का मैं महाविद्यालय परिवार की ओर से हार्दिक अभिनंदन, स्वागत और वंदन करती हूँ। आज के वक्ता डॉक्टर ज्ञानेंद्र कुमार का भी मैं महाविद्यालय की ओर से हार्दिक अभिनंदन और स्वागत करती हूँ। इसके अलावा यह कार्यक्रम 8 सितंबर से प्रारंभ था और आज इसका समापन है। प्रथम दिवस में हमारे बीच मुख्य अतिथि के रूप में उपस्थित थे प्रोफेसर अखिलेश सिंह रघुवंशी जी, और इसके अलावा प्रतिदिन एक एक प्रतिभागी, एक एक वक्ता, विषय विशेषज्ञ के रूप में हमारे महाविद्यालय के बीच में उपस्थित थे वेब मंच के माध्यम से। सर्वप्रथम प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर नागेंद्र कुमार बीएचयू, डॉक्टर विजय प्रमाणिक अमरकंटक, प्रोफेसर ज्ञान प्रकाश सिंह बीएचयू, डॉक्टर संजीव महाजन, डॉक्टर विश्वरंजन भुवनेश्वर उड़ीसा, डॉक्टर शैलेश कुमार द्विवेदी सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी बिलासपुर, और आज के वक्ता डॉक्टर ज्ञानेंद्र कुमार का मैं महाविद्यालय परिवार की ओर से हार्दिक अभिनंदन और स्वागत करती हूँ। इसके साथ ही इस वेबिनार से, इस कार्यशाला से जुड़े हुए तमाम क्षेत्रों के प्रतिभागियों का भी मैं महाविद्यालय परिवार की ओर से हार्दिक अभिनंदन और स्वागत करती हूँ। इस कार्यशाला की समन्वयक डॉक्टर कविता कृष्णमूर्ति, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर जूलॉजी, गवर्नमेंट लाहिड़ी पीजी कॉलेज चिरमिरी का भी मैं उनको बधाई देना चाहती हूँ कि उन्होंने एक ऐसे थीम का चयन किया है जो वास्तव में आज के प्रतिभागियों के लिए, आज के रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स के लिए बहुत ही ज्यादा कारगर साबित होता है। इसके साथ ही आज के इस कार्यक्रम के ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी डॉक्टर आशीष कुमार पांडे, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर कॉमर्स, गवर्नमेंट लाहिड़ी पीजी कॉलेज चिरमिरी का भी मैं हार्दिक बधाई और धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ कि दोनों ने मिलकर, और इसके अलावा महाविद्यालय के और भी सलाहकार समिति के जितने भी सदस्य हैं, सभी को मैं बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देती हूँ कि जिन्होंने जुड़कर इस कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाने में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सहयोग दिया है। वास्तव में जितने भी वक्ता हमारे बीच उपस्थित थे वो अपने विषय के विशेषज्ञ थे और उन्होंने रिसर्च के बारे में एक ऐसा कॉन्सेप्ट हमारे प्रतिभागियों के बीच में रखा है कि वास्तव में जो चीजें हमें नहीं पता थी, आपके माध्यम से सारे प्रतिभागियों को पता चला और वो इससे आश्वस्त हुए, वो अवगत हुए। और मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि अब जब कोई भी प्रतिभागी रिसर्च करने बैठेगा तो आपके द्वारा बनाए हुए मानकों को जरूर ध्यान में रखेगा, और यदि हम उन मानकों के आधार पर हम रिसर्च का काम करते हैं तो निश्चित ही हमें बहुत ही आनंद मिलता है और हमारा रिसर्च एक महत्वपूर्ण बिंदुओं को लेकर बनाया गया रिसर्च निश्चित रूप से हमारे समाज और आने वाली पीढ़ी के लिए बहुत ही कारगर होता है। और एक बार फिर से मैं महाविद्यालय परिवार की ओर से शासकीय लाहिड़ी स्नातकोत्तर महाविद्यालय चिरमिरी कोरिया छत्तीसगढ़ की ओर से आज के मुख्य अतिथि प्रोफेसर SN उपाध्याय जी का महाविद्यालय परिवार की ओर से हार्दिक अभिनंदन, स्वागत और वंदन करती हूँ। और इस प्रोग्राम में जुड़े हुए सभी प्रतिभागियों का भी मैं महाविद्यालय परिवार की ओर से हार्दिक अभिनंदन और स्वागत करती हूँ तथा दोनों समन्वयक और ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी को बहुत ढेर सारी बधाई देती हूँ कि वो निश्चित रूप से बधाई के पात्र हैं कि उन्होंने इतने अच्छे विषय, इतने अच्छे वक्ताओं को इस वेब मंच से जोड़ा है। निश्चित रूप से ये बधाई के पात्र हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, madam, for your greetings and blessings. And now I invite Dr. Ashish Kumar Pandey to give brief introduction of our chief guest, Professor S.N. Upadhyay.
Thank you, madam, for providing this opportunity. It's my great privilege to introduce the chief guest of the valedictory session of this program, Professor S.N. Upadhyay. Sir is currently working as honorary research professor in Department of Chemical Engineering and Technology, IIT BHU. He is also appointed as honorary adjunct professor in Rajiv Gandhi Petroleum Technology Institute, JAIS, Amethi, Uttar Pradesh. Before joining these current positions, Sir has served as Head Department of Chemical Engineering and Technology, Dean Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Coordinator of the School of Biochemical Engineering, Member Executive Council of Banaras Hindu University, Professor in Charge, Training and Placement Cell, ITBHU, Coordinator of the Center of Education Technology, Coordinator Malvi Center for Value, BHU. Apart from this, he has also worked as Director IIT, BHU, and Director Academic Staff College, BHU. Professor Upadhyay has experience of more than 50 years in academic field. For find information, I would like to mention that his first joining was in 1967 in the age of 21 years. He has supervised more than 100 PG dissertations and 30 PhD theses. Sir has authored more than 200 technical papers, which has published in different international and national journals, and over 200 technical articles presented in various national and international conferences. In addition, he has authored 10 books and 25 book chapters. Sir has been taking keen interest in the development of engineering education at BHU and actively associated with the development of schools of bioengineering, biomedical engineering, and biochemical engineering in IIT BHU, and School of Biotechnology, Faculty of Science, BHU. Sir is member of several professional bodies such as Indian Nuclear Society, Indian Association of Environmental Management, Indian Society of Bioenergy, etc. He is also the fellow of different academic bodies such as Academy of Forest and Environmental Sciences, National Academy of Science, Indian National Academy of Engineering, Biotechnology Research Society of India, International Academy of Physical Science, etc. Sir has received several awards and honors such as Anna University National Award in 2003, UP Ratna Award in 2005, Sri C.V. Raman Award in 2009, Distinguished Alumnus Award given by IIT BHU in 2013, DAE Raja Ramanna Emeritus Fellowship Award in 2013 and also in 2016, Lifetime Achievement Award given by Biotechnology Research Society in year 2014. Professor Upadhyay is active in social work and also associated with several social bodies such as Sankat Mochan Foundation Varanasi, Swachh Ganga Abhiyan, the Goswami Tulsidas Educational Society, Mahamana Malvi Foundation, and Mahamana Malvi Mission, etc. In addition, Sir has many other achievements. It's not possible to mention all those because of time limitations. So I would like to invite a very experienced and inspiring personality, Professor S.N. Upadhyay sir, for his valedictory speech. Over to you, sir.
Should be Ashish ji. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hello.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Madam Kavita and Mr. Pandey, what is expected from me? Is it the usual validity session where certificates are given and the person has to give certificates, which is not possible through digital mode? So how much time I have at my disposal, and what do you expect from me? Or it is free. I can talk whatever I feel like, suiting the occasion.
Sir, sir, you are free. You can share your experiences and knowledge with us.
Okay, how much time I have at my disposal? It's already late by 1 hour, half an hour, sorry.
Yeah, sir.
आपके श्रोता भाग तो नहीं जाएंगे अपने अपने घरों से कंप्यूटर बंद करके? हैं? कब से सुन रहे थे? ज्ञानेंद्र जी को सुन रहे थे, इथिक्स वगैरह से सुन के इथिक्स विथिक्स में कोई बहुत ज्यादा दिलचस्पी नहीं रखता, तो खिसक तो नहीं जाएंगे स्विच ऑफ करके?
नहीं सर, हम सुनना चाहेंगे आपको.
ओके, सो आई शेयर. सुनो, स्लाइड तो आ गया लेकिन फुल स्क्रीन नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है. ये है. Is it the slides are visible? Hello?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank your principal, Madam Tiwari, and Dr. Kavita Krishnamurthy, Dr. Pandey, and others for locating me and honoring me by making the chief guest of valedictory function. So but you have shown partiality towards Varanasi. I could find from the list of speakers and the inaugural session chief guest and the valedictory session chief guest that 4 of them are from Varanasi. So I do not know how did you decide to select so many people only from Varanasi. And I'm thankful to you for selecting one of those, me also in one of those. What I have thought to discuss is as a prologue, थोड़ा भूमिका स्वरूप कुछ भूमिका बांटने की कोशिश करूंगा. What is the use of this kind of workshop or a faculty development program or a refresher course for a faculty who is already employed somewhere in a college or university? पहला लाभ तो यह है कि यूजीसी के हिसाब से प्रमोशन में इससे ग्रेड उससे पॉइंट मिलता है एंड यू गेट प्रमोटेड एंड यू अर्न इंक्रीमेंट और यू गेट अर्न हायर सैलरी. वो तो दूसरा लाभ है. लेकिन व्हाई शुड अ टीचर who is teaching as an assistant professor or associate professor or even as a professor should undergo this kind of refresher course or orientation course or workshop? So on that, and what is the use of purpose of education and such courses? Then a few points about research, not to tell you about research methodology, but more to tell you about what I have experienced those days. I could finish my PhD by 1969. So many of these tools which the youngsters are able to use today were not available. I have prepared the outline of my talk, which is shown on the screen. Prologue, that is introduction, then research, its types, methodology, and tools, a quick summary. Then I have selected topics which were talked about by the various learned speakers, concept and type of research, from basics of literature review to origin of hypothesis, data analysis and statistical tools, the art of academic writing, selection of journals, plagiarism and ethical values in research. And finally, epilogue or upsanghar. So this is what I have decided. Why should we get educated? Why should a child or a person go to school, learn something and get skill or some other attribute? So for that, there are ample statements in our ancient books. One I have quoted here from Bhartrihari, Vidya nam narasya rupam adhikam prachanna guptam dhanam vidya bhog kari yasa sukha kari vidya gurunam guru vidya bandhu jano videsa gamane vidya para devata vidya rajasu pujyate natu dhanam vidya vihina pashu. विद्या के से हीन पशु मनुष्य पशु के समान है, क्योंकि विद्या प्रचन्न धन है, गुप्त धन है. इससे आनंद मिलता है, इससे यश की प्राप्ति होती है, ये गुरु का काम करती है, विदेश में बंधु का मित्र का काम करती है और देवता की तरह है. और राजा भी विद्या वाले विद्वान को ही पूछता है, धन वाले को नहीं. जब शुरू में हमारे देश में शिक्षा प्रारंभ हुई थी तो कुछ ज्यादा एट्रीब्यूट्स की जरूरत नहीं थी, इसलिए हमारे चिंतकों ने, हमारे मनीषियों ने कहा साहित्य संगीत कला विहीना मनुष्य साक्षात पशु पक्षी विषाणहीना. केवल साहित्य संगीत और कला, इन तीन एट्रीब्यूट्स अगर आदमी में हो जाए तो उसे हम शिक्षित कह सकते हैं. लेकिन जब थोड़ा विकास हुआ, थोड़ी जनसंख्या और बढ़ी, अन्य क्षेत्रों में कार्य मनुष्य ने करना शुरू किया, तो हमारे चिंतकों ने, मनीषियों ने इस परिभाषा में थोड़ा परिवर्तन किया और उन्होंने कहा येषाम न विद्या न तपो न दानम ज्ञानम न शीलम, येषाम न विद्या न तपो न दानम ज्ञानम न शीलम न गुणो न धर्मः ते मर्त्य लोके भुवि भारभूता मनुष्य रूपेण मृगाश्चरन्ति. जिसमें व्यक्ति में विद्या नहीं है, जिसने पढ़ाई नहीं की है, जिसमें तप का मतलब पूजा पाठ से नहीं, कठिन परिश्रम करने की क्षमता नहीं है, दान देने की क्षमता नहीं है, दान देने की नहीं दे सकता, जो ज्ञानवान नहीं है, जो चरित्रवान नहीं है, जिसमें कोई न कोई गुण, जिसको स्किल आजकल अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं, और धर्म कर्तव्य परायणता नहीं है, वो मनुष्य इस धरती पर पशु के समान है. ये हमारे पूर्वज कह गए हैं. और इसके लिए उन्होंने गुरु शिष्य परंपरा से पढ़ाई लिखाई शुरू की. फिर गुरुकुल बने, नालंदा और तक्षशिला तो पाकिस्तान में चला गया, लेकिन नालंदा भारत सरकार फिर से पुनर्जीवित कर रही है और विश्वविद्यालय उसी के आधुनिक रूप हैं. अंग्रेजी शब्दकोश में शिक्षा देने वालों के लिए बहुत सारे शब्द हैं. एजुकेट, ट्रेन, कोच, इंस्ट्रक्ट. तो मैंने कुछ परिभाषा वेबस्टर डिक्शनरी से उद्धृत की है यहाँ पर. एजुकेट इज टू एजुकेट मीन्स imparting knowledge, information, understanding or skill, and instruction are to educate with a with a 1 minute, with a sense of to lead from forth from refers to the imparting of specific body of knowledge, especially one that equips a person to practice a profession. For example, to educate a person for high school diploma, to educate someone for engineering degree, to educate someone for law degree. So these are this is the dictionary definition of education. Then we have definitions for instructor, coach, trainer, tutor. Out of these, I'll not go into the details of these definitions. These are all from dictionary. Out of these, the teacher is the and the teaching has the widest perspective, and teacher is much more beyond a coach or instructor or tutor, because he not only teaches the subject, he teaches, encourages the students to analyze, to assimilate that subject and to use that subject for betterment of the society, for conducting himself and herself. So teacher has an important role in developing positive attitudes. His effect continues till eternity. Education should not only enable one to earn bread and butter, but should also teach the way of life through positive attitudes. Teachers help in inculcating such positive attitudes. A teacher affects eternity. She can never tell where his her influence stops. Even after the students go out of the school, the influence of teacher under whom they have studied continues. And the statement is a famous American educationist Henry Adams. गुरु का पद हमारी संस्कृति में बहुत ऊंचा माना गया है, और उसको इसीलिए हम प्रणाम करते हैं, गुरु को नमस्कार करते हैं। अखंड मंडलाकारम व्याप्तम येन चराचरम तत्पदम दर्शितम येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। जिसने हमको उस अखिल विश्व के का जो संचालक है, चलाने वाला है, उसके चरण कमल का दर्शन कराया और वो ज्ञान के रूप में दर्शन कराया। इसलिए उस गुरु के चरण में मेरा नमन है। और गुरु माता का भी काम करता है, गुरु माता भी गुरु का काम करती है। इसलिए जो नीचे का श्लोक है, गुरु मध्य स्थिता माता मातृ मध्य स्थितो गुरु, गुरु माता नमस्ते अस्तु मातृगुरुम नमाम्यहम्। जैसे गुरु माता बच्चे को उठना, बैठना, बोलना, चलना, खाना सिखाती है, वैसे गुरु बच्चे को या शिष्य को ज्ञान देकर समाज में कैसे व्यवहार करना चाहिए, कैसे उस ज्ञान का उपयोग करना चाहिए, उसको सिखाता है, उसके व्यक्तित्व को विकसित करता है। तो इस तरह से दोनों गुरु माता भी है और माता भी गुरु है, इसलिए इन दोनों को नमस्कार करने का कि वहां इस श्लोक में किया गया है। गुरु ब्रह्मा है, गुरु विष्णु है, गुरु महेश्वर है। ये गुरु ब्रह्मा, गुरु विष्णु, गुरुदेव महेश्वर, गुरु साक्षात परम ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। गुरु ब्रह्मा इसलिए है कि वो ज्ञान की सृष्टि करता है, हमारे मस्तिष्क में, हमारे व्यक्तित्व में ज्ञान का विकास करता है। उस तरह से सृष्टि का परिचायक है विष्णु के, ब्रह्मा के रूप में। उसको आगे बढ़ाने की कोशिश करता है, विकसित करता है, इसलिए वो विष्णु के रूप में है। और अगर कोई गलत अवधारणा, गलत ज्ञान बच्चे के मस्तिष्क में आ गया तो उसको दूर करने की कोशिश करता है, इसलिए वो शिव का रूप है जो संहारक कहे जाते हैं। इसलिए त्रिदेवों का वास गुरु के रूप में है, इसलिए इस श्लोक के माध्यम से गुरु रूपी त्रिदेवों को प्रणाम करने की बात कही गई है। A teacher has to be a student throughout his life so that she can acquire new knowledge, assimilate that knowledge, and then use it for teaching her students. And for assimilation, one has to think, and one has to learn and then think. And that is why I forgot the name of the person, probably Confucius, has stated that learning without thinking is dangerous, but thinking without learning is perilous. बिना सोचे कुछ जानना खतरनाक है, लेकिन बिना जाने, बिना पढ़े सोचना ज्यादा खतरनाक है। बहुत से लोग हम में से जब नौकरी पा जाते हैं तो ये सोचते हैं कि अब पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, अब तो एमए हो गया, पीएचडी हो गया, आपके महाविद्यालय में या किसी विश्वविद्यालय में नौकरी मिल गई, तो अब इतिश्री हो गया पढ़ने का, अब क्या जरूरत है पढ़ने की, तो पुराने नोट से पढ़ाना शुरू कर देते हैं। और इसके लिए मैं चर्चिल का ये उदाहरण आपके सामने रखना चाहूंगा। दिस इज नॉट द एंड, दिस इज नॉट इवन द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द एंड, दिस इज जस्ट द एंड ऑफ द बिगिनिंग। ये अंत नहीं है, ये अंत का प्रारंभ भी नहीं है, यह तो प्रारंभ का अंत मात्र है। तो हमारी जो शिक्षा हमें विश्वविद्यालय से या महाविद्यालय से या कहीं से मिलती है, वो हमारी शिक्षा का अंत मात्र है, प्रारंभ का अंत मात्र है, वो अंत नहीं है। हमें तो जब हम अध्यापन के पेशे में आएंगे तो हमें लगातार पढ़ना पड़ेगा, लगातार अपने ज्ञान को आगे बढ़ाना पड़ेगा, उसको नवीन करना पड़ेगा। ये इसलिए भी जरूरी है कि हम अध्यापक के रूप में जो हमारे दैनिक सनातन धर्म की जो प्रक्रिया है उसमें 5 महायज्ञ की अवधारणा है। अध्यापनम ब्रह्म यज्ञ, पितृयज्ञ तर्पणम, होमो देवो बलिर्भूतो, नृयज्ञो अतिथि पूजनम। अध्यापन, पितृपक्ष चल रहा है तो इसलिए पितरों को पिंडदान और तर्पण, हवन देवताओं को, भूतों के लिए बलि, और अतिथि आ गया उसको भोजन। तो जब हम पितरों को पुराना पिंड, बासी पिंड नहीं देते हैं, बासी हवन सामग्री देवताओं को नहीं देते हैं, चढ़ाई हुई बलि दोबारा नहीं चढ़ाते हैं, और अतिथि को बासी भोजन नहीं कराते हैं, तो हमें विद्यार्थियों को, जो हमारे शिक्षा को ग्रहण करने वाले व्यक्ति हैं, उनको हमें नया ज्ञान देने की कोशिश करना चाहिए, क्योंकि अध्यापन भी इन 5 महायज्ञों में से एक है और ब्रह्म यज्ञ इसको कहा गया। इसलिए हमें अध्यापक के रूप में अपने ज्ञान को नया करने की आवश्यकता होनी चाहिए, और हमें सतत अपने ज्ञान में सुधार करना चाहिए, जानकारी को बढ़ाना चाहिए। दूसरा संदेश मैं देना चाहूँगा कि कक्षा में कई तरह के विद्यार्थी आएंगे, कई जाति के आएंगे, कई रंग रूप के आएंगे, लेकिन हर एक बच्चे में कोई न कोई प्रतिभा होती है। और इसके लिए हमारे चिंतक कह गए हैं, अमंत्रम अक्षरम नास्ति नास्ति मूलम अनौषधम, अयोग्य पुरुषो नास्ति योजिका तत्र दुर्लभ। ऐसा कोई अक्षर नहीं है जिसमें मंत्र की शक्ति नहीं है, ऐसा कोई पौधा नहीं है जिसके जड़ में या छाल में या पत्तियों में या अन्य अंगों में औषधीय गुण नहीं है, ऐसा कोई व्यक्ति नहीं है जिसमें कोई न कोई प्रतिभा नहीं है। कमी ऐसे व्यक्ति की है जो उस प्रतिभा को पहचान कर उसको आगे बढ़ाने का प्रयास कर सके। तो अध्यापक के नाते हमारा ये दायित्व बनता है कि हम उस ज्ञान को आगे बढ़ाने का, हम उस प्रतिभा को पहचान कर बच्चे को आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रोत्साहित करें, और कौन सी प्रतिभा किस बच्चे में, इसकी जानकारी प्राप्त करने के लिए हमें थोड़ा उनके नज़दीक जाकर बातचीत करनी की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। अध्यापक वस्तुतः शिक्षा नहीं देता है, केवल स्मरण कराता है। मैंने पिछले श्लोक के माध्यम से बताया कि सब में कोई न कोई प्रतिभा होती है, उस प्रतिभा के आधार पर उनको ज्ञान देने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। तो एक दूसरे चिंतक कह गए, स्मारयेत न तो शिक्षयेत। स्मरण कराता है, शिक्षा नहीं देता है। वो याद दिलाता है कि तुम ये जानते हो, तुम्हारे में ये प्रतिभा है, बस उसको आगे बढ़ाने की कोशिश करो। The best teachers are those who show you where to look but do not tell you where to see. ये अलेक्जेंडर के चैम्पर, एक अमेरिकी शिक्षा शास्त्री हैं, उनका कथन है। और कैसे प्रोत्साहित करना चाहिए, इस स्लाइड के माध्यम से मैं बताना चाहूँगा। एक बच्ची तितली के खोल से, ककून से तितली के बच्चे का निकलना देख रही थी। ककून फट गया था, तितली का बच्चा उसमें से बाहर निकलने की कोशिश कर रहा था। उसने सोचा इसको तो बहुत देर लग जाएगी, मैं थोड़ी इसकी मदद कर देती हूँ, और उसने उस छेद को बड़ा कर दिया और तितली का बच्चा उसमें से बाहर निकल के आ गया और वो मर गया, उड़ नहीं सका। जब तितली का बच्चा अपनी खोल से बाहर आने की कोशिश करता है, जीव विज्ञान के लोग जानते हैं, तो उसके शरीर से रक्त का संचार उसके पंखों की ओर होता है, उनमें ताकत आती है, और इस प्रयास में उसके पंख ताकतवर हो जाते हैं, उसके अन्य हिस्से ताकतवर हो जाते हैं और वो उड़ने में सक्षम होता है। तो उस बालिका ने ये देखा और उसको बड़ा दुख हुआ कि उसके प्रयास से, उसने सोचा अच्छा प्रयास कर रही है, लेकिन उसके प्रयास के चलते वो तितली उड़ नहीं पाई। दूसरे दिन फिर उसने यही दृश्य देखा और फिर उसने देखा कि खोल को बड़ा नहीं किया, छेद को बड़ा नहीं किया, उसने केवल चिल्लाना शुरू किया, कम अप, बी केयरफुल, डोंट गेट हर्ट, कीप इट अप, यस यस, प्रिपेयर ए गुड प्लान, नो गुड स्ट्रेटेजी, और उसको उत्साहित करती रही और फाइनली जो तितली का बच्चा खोल से बाहर आ गया और उड़ गया और बच्ची बहुत प्रसन्न हुई। तो हमें इसी तरह का व्यवहार करना चाहिए बच्चों के साथ, उनको प्रोत्साहित करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। और तितली का बच्चा उड़कर उसके कंधे पे आया बालिका के, उसको कहा थैंक यू बिकॉज ऑफ यू आई हैव बिकम ए बटरफ्लाई नाउ। अंतिम जो संदेश मैं देना चाहूंगा अध्यापकों के लिए, सचिव वैद गुरु तीन जो प्रिय बोलई बयास, राज धर्म तन तीर कर होई बेगई नाश। अध्यापक को, सेक्रेटरी को और वैद्य को सही बोलने वाला, सत्य बोलने वाला होना चाहिए। अगर वो किसी लालच, भय और अवार्ड की के फेर में पढ़कर सही बात नहीं बताएगा तो राज्य का भी नाश होगा, शरीर का भी नाश होगा और कर्तव्य या धर्म का भी नाश होगा। तो टाइम लगेगा संतोष। As I told you earlier that university teachers are supposed to generate knowledge, disseminate it, and for that one has to do research. College and university teachers are required to generate and assimilate new knowledge. Research is required for knowledge generation. For carrying out research, one is required to study and analyze available information to come out with weakness, deficiencies of logic, or science or knowledge gap. Literature search helps in selecting objectives, goals, and deciding goals for further study. Publication of properly and logically analyzed research results help in dissemination of knowledge research. Okay, NIC option. Publication of properly and logically analyzed research results help in dissemination of knowledge research and authorship. जिनको आप अपने पब्लिकेशन में, शोध पत्र में नाम देते हैं, सबका योगदान कुछ न कुछ होना चाहिए। केवल शोभा बढ़ाने के लिए या किसी को प्रसन्न करने के लिए उस शोध पत्र में या उस पब्लिकेशन में उनका नाम नहीं दियाना चाहिए। जिन जिन विषयों पर आपके समक्ष जो विद्वान आए थे उन्होंने जो इन विषयों पर बात की थी उसका मैंने सूची यहाँ बनाई हुई है। कंसेप्ट एंड टाइप्स ऑफ रिसर्च, फ्रॉम बेसिक्स ऑफ लिटरेचर रिव्यू टू ओरिजिन ऑफ हाइपोथेसिस, डेटा एनालिसिस एंड स्टैटिस्टिकल टूल्स, the art of academic writing, selection of journals, plagiarism, ethical values in research. तो मैं इन्हीं बिंदुओं पर जो मेरा अपना अनुभव है, my own experience as a researcher, as a teacher, the way I acted under the given situation at that time, I would like to share that, and some different basic definitions of research and research methodology, which may be a kind of repetition because earlier speakers must have talked on those things. Research is a systematic approach to obtain and confirm new and reliable knowledge. It is systematic and orderly, follows a series of steps. Purpose is to generate reliable new knowledge. This is a general definition which applies to all disciplines, equally to commerce and equally to zoology or botany or any other basic science discipline. Searching for explanation of events, phenomena, relationship, and causes. What, how, and why things occur. Are there interactions? This is the part of research. Research is a process that is planned and managed to make the information generated credible. It is creative and also circular because always there is some gap, and based on those gaps, the researcher can come back to his or her original hypothesis or original concept and try to revise it, improve it, and carry out the research further. Research is a creative process. Research includes far more than mere logic. It includes insight, genius, grasping, pondering sense. The logic we can teach, the art we cannot. So therefore, there is an element of art in carrying out research. And if that element is lacking in a person, he or she cannot be a good researcher. Research requires, or at least work best, with imagination, initiative, intuition, and curiosity. So all these four attributes which I have listed here, those are essential for a person to become a good researcher. There are different types of creativity, characteristic of different situations. And because of that, there is a slight different requirement for applied research, theoretical research, but both most closely associate with economic research. This is just for example, sake our research in the area of commerce. A well-designed and well-conducted research has potential applications. No research is just abstract, just for mere thinking and enjoyment. It should have some potential application, if not today, at a later date. Failure to see such applications can be due to ignorance of users, For example, users may not be trained or experienced in the specialized method or economic research or commerce research in the field of commerce and reasoning. Researchers often do not provide adequate interpretations and guidance on applications of the research. That is why most journals now ask that at the end, in the concluding, not in the concluding, in the discussion section of your research paper, you project its possible application, possible benefit to the human society, and if there is any gap, you will enlist that gap also, and then suggest some further steps through which the research can be continued in the same area. Researchers should help users understand the implications of their research. There is something like accidental discovery, but that is not research. Accidental discovery may occur in structured research process, usually takes the form of a phenomena or not previously noticed, may lead to a structured research process to verify or understand the observation. For example, Newton's law of gravitation was accidental. It's not research based on research methodology. Newton was sitting underneath an apple tree, and he saw falling of the apple from the tree, and then contemplated and then developed that. Similarly, the power of steam. James Watt was sitting in the kitchen of his house and saw that the cover of the pot in which water was boiling was going up and down, and he could invent a steam engine. So such accidental discoveries are not will not come under the category of research. But what followed after that, after Newton's observation of falling of apple fruit, or after up and down motion of the lid of a vessel in which water was boiling by James Watt, led to further use of that power or that observation in developing theories in physics and in engineering. Research requires data collection. Those who are from the field of science, they collect data by performing experiments. Some data is collected through survey also. An intermediate step to gain reliable knowledge. Collecting reliable data is part of the research process. Searching out published research results in libraries, what we call as literature search, or the internet search now. This is an important early step of research. The research process always includes synthesis and analysis, but just reviewing the literature is not research. Many faculty and many researchers try to write good review and publish that, but it is simply collecting of views of others and putting in words, but that is not real research. And that is why, though it may fetch a large citation, 1,000, 2,000 citations, because people find it handy, and in place of going to conduct the literature search themselves, they use the review, but it is it's not given a very high level in terms of research contribution of the person by the research community. This shows the various types of research which can be defined in different areas: fundamental research, empirical research, analytical research, quantitative research, qualitative research, conceptual research, applied research, historical research, and descriptive research. Depending upon in which area you are working, your research activity may fall in one of these areas. In our case, engineering science and basic sciences, our research falls in the area of fundamental research or basic research. But in my case, it will fall both here, applied research. If I do research in the area of basic chemical engineering, that will come as a part of fundamental research. But if I do something which is immediately useful to the industry or to the society, that will be a part of the applied research. But these are all interrelated. And so this graph shows basic research, applied research, and use, how the link is there. Disciplinary knowledge, which is the basic research, transfers its output to subject matter knowledge and whatever has been observed to the applied research area people. Then applied research area people observe some deficiency, they give it feedback to the basic researchers, and they try to modify their findings and improve it. Then there is problem solving knowledge, which is used for institutions, human capital, knowledge development, technology development, etc. Then adaptive research, this technology which has been developed or whatever has been developed based on the basic research, and its improvement and its application-oriented exercise, how it can be applied, and in applying, it's adopted, what are the deficiencies. So last part is maintenance research, how that research can be used for maintaining institutions, human capital, technical industries or knowledge transfer, and then the feedback is obtained and this cycle continues. Therefore, that is why some experts say that research is circular. I'll not go into the definitions of types of research. The definitions are given here for basic, which will be repetitive, applied, public research. Public research is public good, maybe more rigorous and objective because it is subject to more scrutiny. If we do something for a state of Uttar Pradesh or a state of Chhattisgarh or Madhya Pradesh, that will come under public domain, and in say agriculture or electricity supply or water supply, etc., and the public can scrutinize it and offer suggestions. There is also a research known as private research. The market survey, for example, conducted by companies, and these are for a specific purpose. For example, a company may conduct research, market research or market survey to find out which soap or which shampoo is being sold, why it is being sold in large number, and what can be done to promote the sale of his or her own their own product. That is the purpose of this private research, and this has a limited application, and it has also a bias, whereas in public research, applied research and basic research, in some situations there may be bias, but largely there is no bias, they are bias free. Basic research, I will not well into the definition. Applied research I have discussed already. Problem solving research. There are specific problems that has to be solved in a given time period. A technology has to develop, for example, some for our soldiers who are manning our frontiers in Ladakh and in other areas where too much cold is there. Their need is warm cloth. There is needed how to keep water unfrozen, how to keep the food warm, or how to cook. So for them, it's the research which is conducted is known as a problem-solving research, designed to solve a specific problem for a specific decision maker, often results in recommendations or decisions or actions. Problem-solving research is holistic, uses information, set of information relevant to the specific problem, while disciplinary research tends to be reductionist. So basic research is reductionist, whereas this is a kind of integrationist research or holistic research. Disciplinary research is generally the most durable. Problem-solving research is least durable. The problem is solved for a given time period, given place, but at a later date, a new problem may arise. So it is short-lived, not durable, but basic research or disciplinary research is durable. Then analytics versus descriptive research, the attempt to determine, describe, or identify something. The intent is often synthesis, which pull knowledge or information together and come out with certain conclusions and certain suggestions. Whereas analytic research is the attempt to establish why something occurs or how it came to be is explained, but all disciplines engage generally in both. So it's very difficult to separate what is descriptive research and what is analytic research, although there is some subtle difference, but they are intimately related. Then coming to research methodology, there are two words which are improperly used. Methodology and method are often used interchangeably but incorrectly. Methodology, the study of the general approach to inquiry in a given field. That is methodology. Method is the tools, etc., which one uses to carry out that inquiry and come out with the results. For example, research methods include regression analysis, mathematical analysis, operations research, survey, data gathering, etc., experiments, etc. So that is those are the methods or tools of research, but this will not come under this broad topic of methodology. In contrast, research methodology, for example, in economics and economic methodology, these are two different things. Research methodology in economics is different, it's for research, but economic methodology is to analyze the research results for the benefit of the society and how the fiscal management and economic reasoning can be used for developing a economic concept for a given country or for a given situation by a given state government or central government. While these are different, but they are interdependent in some way, as basic sciences and scientific researches are related. They are also related, but there is a difference. A method is a tool and methodology is the process through which research is carried out. 5 steps I have listed here, which are used in research. The process is initiated with a question or problem. Goals and objectives are formulated to deal with question or problem. The research design is developed to achieve the objective. Results are generated by conducting the research, and then interpretation and analysis of results follows, and then conclusions are arrived at. This sequence can be represented in the form of this flow diagram. Define research problem, carry out review of the literature, formulate hypothesis, design research, collect data, analyze data, interpret, report, result, and conclusion. There is some same flow chart one can write in the form of this interconnected flow sheet, where inputs from service experts, from scientific professional community, input from producers and consumers, input from other disciplines is also taken, and the research is carried out. But the basic structure, which is shown here in the dark blocks, is the same, which I showed earlier. But there is input from this part, input from producer, input from scientific community, input from experts, and input from the society, etc., which is not shown here. That makes the system a little more complicated, but that input is essential for carrying out research. Creativity is required, and though research and creativity are interrelated, gather and use previously developed knowledge, exchange of ideas, apply deductive logic, look at things alternate way. Some prefer to call it thinking out of box. Question or challenge assumptions which were made earlier and results were obtained. Search for patterns or relationships. Take risks, cultivate tolerance or uncertainty, allow curiosity to grow, set problems aside and come back to them, write down one's thoughts. Whatever has occurred to you in your mind while thinking about a research problem or research topic, one should write immediately, otherwise one may forget. And this will cultivate the habit of recording, frequently lead one to come out with good results, good conclusions, and good assumptions. Freedom from distraction, some time to think is also required. Creativity may provide the difference between satisfactory and outstanding research. How creative a person is and how one or he or she is going to follow these steps and abide by these, that will give credit to his or her research. It may be satisfactory or it may become outstanding. Now I'll come to my own experiences. The research can be, the scientific research, for example, more rather than research in the area of commerce, can be basic research, idea-based research, or it can be instrument-based research. I have money, I can buy SCM, I can buy spectrophotometers, I can buy all kinds of gadgets and carry out research. And or I have an idea and I can use that idea in a proper way with meager resources and carry out research. So I'll share my experiences in this area, because when I started research, many of the modern instruments were not available. I got registered for my PhD degree in this department where I'm currently working as a research professor way back in 1965. Not many instruments were there, and my supervisor, late Professor Gopal Tripathi, he was educated at MIT and then at Michigan, 2 degrees, 2 MS degrees, one in metallurgy, one in chemical, and one PhD in chemical engineering. And those were the days of World War. So after World War, he came to India and became the head of the Department of Chemical Engineering and the principal of the College of Technology. His expertise was thermodynamics. So when I got registered under him, he suggested me that you should work on the study of PVT, pressure, volume, temperature relationships of hydrocarbons using Joule-Thomson expansion, which is a thermodynamics problem. I collected literature search, I compiled information, designed and set up, which was made of stainless steel, high pressure tubing, pressure gauges, compressors, etc. Order was placed to a company in Mumbai, and in the meantime, Government of India raised the duty on steel by 150%. The company declined to supply the instrument at the old rate, and they suggested that a new quotation should be invited, and this took about 1.5 years. In the meantime, I was helping another person, another fellow researcher who was working with me under the same supervisor in an area known as heat transfer in fluidized beds. Heat transfer, mass transfer, these are basic sub-disciplines of mechanical engineering and chemical engineering. Heat transfer is how quickly hot water will get cooled, or how do we receive heat from a room heater during cold season, how quickly water evaporates, how quickly a salt dissolves, or how quickly the tablet which we take as a medicine gets disintegrated and dissolves in our body when we are ill. So I did some help. I helped that person in his research, and he also asked me to conduct literature search for his research. I did that, and during that period, I found that there is not much information except 2 or 3 papers in the area of mass transfer, and that too were on solid gas systems. Naphthalene was evaporated in air, or water was evaporated in air, and data were collected. So seeing the reply from the company, which came to the department, I hesitantly went to my supervisors and tell him that, sir, if you permit me, I would like to change my research topic and try to carry out research in the area of mass transfer characteristics of solid liquid systems or fluid solid systems, on which there is a particularly liquid system, there is no information. And he agreed. And this is how, based on that idea which I could get by helping my fellow researcher, I changed my topic and carried out research, which was carried out with a meager infrastructure. I'll not go into the definition of what that mass transfer, heat transfer is. I have tried to explain. The area with the research results which I generated has application in chemical engineering in various fields, like some of these are listed here. Chemical reactors, crystallizers, how the sugar from the syrup gets converted to sugar crystals, how it gets dissolved, how oil is extracted from a oily seed, drying and evaporation, polymer processing, fluidized bed coal combustion, biochemical engineering, biomedical engineering, in artificial liver design, or things like that, the artificial kidney, biological wastewater treatment, trickling filter, etc. So it has wider application. I'm sure had I been stuck to thermodynamics, the research results would not have been that enjoying and satisfying, because that was a well-traveled area, very old area of physics, chemistry, and engineering, and I could not have contributed much, which I could do here by just changing the topic and thinking out of box, or telling my idea clearly before my supervisor. How do we carry out? This was another topic which somebody talked, from basics of literature review to origin of hypothesis. Now it has carry out literature search has become easy. You go to Google, put some keywords of that area, and you are inundated with a huge amount of abstracts and list of papers. Unless your keyword is good, you'll be asked to search out which is of your use and which is of no use. But when we were research scholar, those days there were no computer, no internet, no Google. So literature search was to be carried out by going through the pages of chemical abstract, biological abstract, or books like that. And in the market, postcard, a little larger than postcard side cards with lines were available, which are shown here. And we were told to collect, note down the abstract in these cards by reading and going to the library, noting down, and then arrange them in the year-wise fashion, or author-wise fashion, or subject-wise fashion, and then carry out the literature search that way. This was more useful than what we are trying to do through internet, because we were forced to go through the abstract. So many things used to come to the mind. We used to write. So the way language was used in those abstracts and those papers, that that language also used to come to the mind, and we were able to write our research results or research paper in a more better way than what we can do simply by downloading the information through internet. Typing was manual. The gateway bond papers, very thin, five copies with a carbon sheet inserted in between. There was no correcting fluid, so it has to be raised or it has to be removed, discarded, and type another page with again in 5 copies. There was no email, so one has to post the research paper after the manuscript for publication through surface mail. Surface mail was cheaper, but it used to take 3 months, 4 months to reach the publisher. So air mail, which was also not very cheap, the postage was too costly, and it was taking 15 days, 20 days in going, and then reviewing, and then it used to take 1 year to get the paper accepted or rejected. Now it is within 21 days or a month, it can be accepted or it can be rejected if it is not useful. This is the simple type of, I'll not go into its detail, container, a pump, similar pump which you use for lifting water in your house, a flow meter device, and a glass column. I could collect from the department, construct this facility for my research, and used it for Newtonian fluid. Water is a Newtonian fluid where the shear stress is directly proportional to shear rate. Total cost of this equipment at that time was not more than 10,000. Only this was costly because this was imported. Rest were available from the different laboratories. I could assemble them, and most of my research and my students' research were based on this kind of setup, which is very cheap. We did not have a spectrophotometer at that time, so know the weight loss at the concentration going to the water. I used to take the samples out, dry them in a desiccator, and find out the weight. These are the type of materials which I used, which I could get made locally in a pharmaceutical company from benzoic acids, cinnamic acid, beta-naphthol, benzoic acids in a cylinder, sphere, pellets, and I use for dissolution studies. Equations I developed, which I'll not go into the details, and the results were presented using others' data. Then we shifted to non-Newtonian fluid. Milk is a non-Newtonian fluid. Honey is a non-Newtonian fluid. The paint is a non-Newtonian fluid. They do not behave like water. So we could, there was no literature on non-Newtonian fluids. So I suggested to my professor and also to my students who later joined with me as a research scholar that let us explore the behavior of these non-Newtonian fluids. And a lot of work was done using these non-Newtonian fluids, using low soluble solids like benzoic acid, making them granules, making them pellets, water soluble polymers like carboxymethyl cellulose. Basic data was not available, so we were forced to measure viscosity, diffusivity, and solubility. We also used polyethylene glycol, polyvinyl pyrrolidone, polyethylene oxide besides carboxymethyl cellulose, and the rate of dissolution was measured using electronic balance, not a spectrophotometer because concentration was too low, and the UV visible spectrophotometer of Beckman, which was available at that time, was not giving good results and reliable results. We could prepare viscometer ourselves in the workshop, use that. We could prepare the entire setup for measuring the diffusion coefficient. We could prepare the molds for making spheres and cylinders, and the entire setup for the mass transfer studies. This was used by one of my PhD students, and later 2 more students used this setup. I'll not go into, everything was made locally. Nothing was purchased in this case out from outside. And then we could develop the results, which have more than 400 citations by now, and have found citation in the textbooks used by chemical engineering students. Now coming to data analysis, we could collect a lot of data. There was no computer. So log table was the only instrument available to us, only device available to us. So I used log table, NT-log and log table to do calculations and get the values of the mass transfer rate or whatever we were required to calculate. Then we had at that time these machines, a slide rule, which is no longer visible to students, which could measure the length and also do multiplication, division, power raising, etc. For statistical analysis, there was no computer, so we used facet machine, addition, summation, um, multiplication, electronic machine. Electrical machine was also available there, but quite often it used to get stuck. So I used facet machine, not in my department, it was available in agriculture. These were the handy tools used by all engineers. I used these besides the log tables. And for some applications, I used to go to Kanpur IIT and motorbike because in Benares there was no computer. IIT Kanpur had IBM 1620 and I could use that computer using not the modern computer where nothing is visible. You have to put everything on the hard disk or pen drive and then use that. Postcard side cards were to be punched one by one after making the program in Fortran 4. Then later we learned how to use this tape-based computer, which was developed in our country by ICL in Bar. So these were the devices available. Now this handheld mobile or the laptop computer is more powerful than the IBM 1620 machine, which that I used at IIT Kanpur. There were no statistical softwares available for us to use at that time. One has to write down the equations, carry out differentiation, carry out the regression analysis, but now you have ANOVA, response surface methodology, central composite design, Bucks-Behenken design, and Taguchi, and using that software which is commercially available, you can analyze your data, determine which parameter which is more important, which parameter is not important, and which should be rejected and which should be further investigated, and you can plan your experiment accordingly. This facility was not available at that time, but now the computer and the software has made these commercial softwares available, and they have become easy for analyzing data, discarding those parameters which are not useful, and retaining only those parameters which are going to really matter. So some basic information on that I have included here. I'll not go into the details. Then if you are interested in carrying out research in the area of commerce and in the research area of social science or in the area of economics or agriculture, quite often you are required to carry out survey, and you are required to prepare a survey questionnaire, which you will, one is required to distribute to the people and get information from them. Unless it is cleverly designed, you will not be able to get to the correct information from the masses. So correct design of questionnaire is required, and I will not go into details. We designed 3 questionnaires, two for the project which was sanctioned to us, and I was made in charge as director of the Institute of Technology. Use of information and communication technology for livelihood development of people from Robertsganj and Mirzapur area. So we developed questionnaire for knowing the social problem, agricultural problem, educational problem of that area. We approached villagers and we convinced them to come out with the answer, fill the details in the questionnaire. So sample of that questionnaire and purpose, I'll not discuss. I will forward to Ms. Dr. Kavita Krishnamurthy ji as a PDF, which you can share, she can share with all of you. What is required to be done here is that suppose you have to do some survey which will be useful for the entire country, which is the theoretical population. Out of that, we have to select a study population, and then study population, you have to carry out a sample, make a sample frame, and then using that sample, which will consist of male, female, or if the subject is of concern only to female, you can select only female persons, subjects in the sample. So what do you want to generalize to? What population can you get access to? How can you get access to them? And what is in your study, who is in your study, male, female, or child? All that is decided, and that will control this selection of sample size and sample, and then survey sheet can be formalized and can be used. So this we used for microfinance. My assistant who at that time was working for that ICT project, he submitted a PhD thesis in the Department of Commerce of our university and he worked on microfinance and rural economic development, a case study of Varanasi district. And the questionnaire sheet that he used, I'll share. I have requested him to permit me to share with you. So that sheet is available in the form of a PDF, which I will share. I'll not go into the detail. It consisted of two parts, part A and part B, for different purposes and different types of questions. He collected information, analyzed it, and then submitted his thesis, which included information included the status of house, livestock, land holding, loan available, property portfolio before and after the implementation of the scheme, saving and expenditure, etc. So all such informations were collected, and he analyzed and obtained his PhD. And then in the ICT survey, we used a similar survey sheet in villages of Robertsganj and Mirzapur. And we did initial survey to know the problems of agriculture, drug addiction, disease, availability, unavailability of water, economic status, education. And we submitted a software for the farmers to use in the form of a computer software in Hindi. And they used it for improving the cultivation of brinjal or eggplant, cauliflower, tomato, rice, livelihood. After implementation of the project, we collected through another survey more information, and that we submitted as a report to the central government Ministry of Information and Communication Technology at that time. Now coming to the last part, the art of academic writing, selection of journals, plagiarism, and ethical values, on which the speaker who was before me, Mr. Raut, Gyan Kumar Raut, was talking about. Only few basic things. One should write the research result or thesis or paper in passive mode. I did, we did. That is not liked by the reviewers and not appreciated. Quite often we develop a habit of beginning a sentence after writing another earlier sentence. However, if the results are doubtful, however, it can be said, this however should be avoided to the extent possible. So these are few suggestions based on my own observation after writing papers and getting feedback from the reviewers. I would like to pass on in the art of academic writing. It should not be a flowery English, but it should be grammatically correct. There should be proper punctuation, and the proper mode, passive mode, should be used for reporting the results. There are problems in selecting journals. There are regular journals of a subject. There are open access journals in the same subject. They are imitating or predatory journals. Regular journals are those journals which are being published since long. They don't charge any money. They have high impact factor. They are cited, their citation is good, but they take time, and they also require a very stringent quality in the manuscript. Open access journals are those journals which are maybe part of the regular journal itself, but they charge money, whereas in case of regular journals, one is not required to pay money for getting the article published. And this money from Indian researcher is quite high. It may be, say, $1,200 for a paper, or even more than that. Then there are, recently, after the UGC has made it mandatory for calculation of score published in recognized journals. Many journals have come in the market whose names are similar to the established journals. For example, Journal of Chemical Engineering is an established journal in my field. By adding International Journal of Chemical Engineering, which is an imitating journal, so quite often researchers are lured by such journals, and they are predatory journals. They come to you through email, and they ask that Professor Upadhyay or Dr. Kavita or Dr. Pandey, this is the last request for you. The journal is going for publication. Everything is ready. We are lacking with one article. Kindly contribute. All these journals are predatory, so one should be careful in selecting such journals and go by the suggestion of the seniors or suggestion of the supervisor in selecting the journal. Plagiarism is now easy to check in earlier days, it was not easy to check because no computers were there. But now everything is digitized. So once you submit to your paper for publication or even thesis to your registrar academic, the softwares are available using which they can easily check that there are 30% similarity in your paper or thesis, or there are complete copying of paragraphs and sentences from such and such source. So that can be easily detected. Therefore, that has to be carefully looked into. Then there is problem of citing figures and reproducing figures and tables. If you modify the figure, it's okay. And at the end, you can, if it is not original, if it's being modified on the basis of someone else's figure, then you can write that based on such and such source, tables also such and such source. If you are exactly reproducing it, then you will have to, one is required to get the permission, and then only it can be reproduced. Reproducing one's own statement from his or her own earlier published paper is also plagiarism. And most journals now require that there should be less than 25% similarity, then only the paper can be sent for review. Otherwise, it will come back to you and you will have to revise it and modify it. Ethical values, Dr. Gyan Kumar has talked in detail, but I will focus on those aspects which I do not know whether he referred or not. Do not agree to be a co-author unless you have really contributed to the research in some way. I get papers for review where there are more than 12 authors, 10 authors, 12 authors. It's very difficult which author has contributed what. One is from India, another one is from Russia, another person, 3 or 4 are from Korea. So which group has contributed what, that is not very clear. So this is not a good practice to please someone. You keep on adding co-author, that person as a co-author. It's not, this should be avoided. Do not put someone as a co-author just to please him or her. It is ideal to put the research student as the first author. Some faculty prefer force the student to make him, the professor or the supervisor, as the first author. This is not a good practice, healthy practice. Avoid overcrowding of authors, more than 10, 12 as I told you. Acknowledge all financial, infrastructural and technical support properly at the end of the paper. And in the area of geological sciences, in the area of technology where the medical, where patients are involved, animals are involved, bioethical committees there in most universities, and consent of bioethical committee by presenting the project details before that committee is mandatory before you can use an animal, even a rat, other than bacteria, etc., or a patient in the hospital to collect even simple information. That ethical committee clearance is required, which is slightly different than what Dr. Raut was talking about. Now, finally, coming to the end, some suggestions as a senior faculty and researcher. You choose the future with your actions each day. Every day have a little bird on your shoulder that asks, is today the day? Am I ready? Am I doing all I need to do? Am I being the person I want to be? Leave everyone unconditionally and let love flow into you. Be grateful despite the situation. Allow yourself to get a cleansing range of human kindness that should have as a human being. Many persons try to grudge that my department or my college has no facility, so I cannot do good research. But that should not be, that's not a good notion. Ram naam ek ank hai, sab sadhan hai soon. Ank hate sab soon hai, ank lage das goon. If your goal is to realize darshan of Ram, you can realize that darshan under a tree using a hut, not necessarily a marble structure or a gold structure. If you are not satisfied with your own place or your own college or your department, then also it's not good. Nafrat hui unhe sare jahan se aakhir hum nayi duniya laye to laye kahan se. Wherever we are settled and working, we should feel satisfied, try to improve upon it, and there is always a hope. अंधकार से क्यों घबराएं, नन्हा सा एक दीप जलाएं. Make effort, and the darkness or whatever weakness is there, that can be removed and eliminated. we should be, there are three types of persons in our society. First category is those who do not want to do anything. In everything they find there is a problem. Then second category is that person who find that they start doing something, but whenever they meet any obstacle, they abandon it, start doing something else. But there is a third category of person, once they start doing something, they take it to the end. And that is why our ancestors have said that prarabhyate na khalu vigna bhayan nichai prarabhya vigna vihita viramanti madhya vignai punah punarapi pratihanyamana prarabhya chottam jana na parate. तीन प्रकार के लोग हैं, निम्न कोटि के जो कोई काम नहीं कर सकते, सब में उनको बाधा दिखती है, मध्यम कोटि के जो काम तो प्रारंभ कर देते हैं लेकिन व्यवधान आने पर उसको छोड़ देते हैं, और उत्तम कोटि के जो एक बार जो काम हाथ में ले लेते हैं उसको लक्ष्य तक ले जाते हैं, उसको पूरा करके छोड़ते हैं। और अंत में डरने से काम नहीं होता है, डरने से विजय नहीं मिलती है, कोशिश करने से ही काम होता है। इसलिए मैं सोहनलाल द्विवेदी की कविता है, कुछ लोग इसको अमिताभ बच्चन के पिता हरिवंश राय बच्चन के कविता बोलते हैं, जो गलत है। सोहनलाल द्विवेदी फतेहपुर के गांव के निवासी थे, उनकी कविता है, लहरों से डरकर नौका पार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती, नन्ही चींटी जब दाना लेकर चलती है, चढ़ती दीवारों पर 100 बार फिसलती है, मन का विश्वास रगों में साहस बढ़ता है, चढ़कर गिरना गिरकर चढ़ना ना खरता है, आखिर उसकी मेहनत बेकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती। डुबकियां सिंध में गोताखोर लगाता है, जा जाकर खाली हाथ लौट आता है, मिलते नहीं सहज ही मोती गहरे पानी में, बढ़ता दुगना उत्साह इसी हैरानी में, मुट्ठी उसकी खाली हर बार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती। असफलता एक चुनौती है स्वीकार करो, क्या कमी रह गई देखो और सुधार करो, जब तक न सफल हो नींद चैन की त्यागो तुम, संघर्ष का मैदान छोड़ मत भागो तुम, कुछ लिए बिना ही यूं ही जय जयकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती। तो ये हमारा उद्देश्य होना चाहिए, ये हमारी सोच होनी चाहिए, और विजय अवश्य मिलेगी। तो रिसर्च में भी यही हमारी सोच होनी चाहिए। एक रेफरेंस भी मुझे मिला था, उसको भी मैंने उद्धृत कर दिया है, रंजीत कुमार रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी ए स्टेप बाय स्टेप गाइड फॉर बिगिनर्स, और तीसरा एडिशन है, दिल्ली से छपा है 2011 में। ये आप इसको पुस्तकालय में मंगा सकते हैं। धन्यवाद। कविता जी,
सर आप
समापन हो गया।
हाँ सर।
सर आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इस प्रेरणादायी, ज्ञानवर्धक व मार्गदर्शी उद्बोधन के लिए। अपने व्याख्यान के माध्यम से आपने अपने अनुभव को साझा किया, जिससे शिक्षण के क्षेत्र में शोध के महत्व का पता चलता है। एक बार फिर से आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नाउ at the last stage of this mega event, I invite Dr. Kavita Krishnamurthy, a dynamic and most inspiring personality of our institution, for deliver a vote of thanks.
पंडित जी, मैं ये PDF और अपना ये प्रेजेंटेशन ये तीनों फॉरवर्ड कर दूंगा कविता जी को, जो मेल ID मेरे पास है, आप शेयर कर सकते हैं या उस पर डाल सकते हैं।
ओके सर।
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. आप कर लीजिएगा। Very much, sir. Now it's my privilege to
कोरोना को भी धन्यवाद दीजिएगा, जिसके चलते वेबिनार संभव हो पाया।
On the concluding day of this workshop, act of return. Thank you very much, sir. Now everything is more on. Thank you very much. First of all, this workshop, because first of all,
आवाज कट जा रही है आपकी।
yes, so I start the vote of thanks session. So first of all, I would like to thank. I start the vote of thanksgiving. So Almighty God for showing blessing on us. Hello, मेरी आवाज आ रही है? Hello,
आ रही,
हाँ
कट रही, कट रही।
अभी तो बेहतर है।
hello.
करिए।
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank Almighty God for showering blessings on us throughout the event. Well, an event like this cannot happen overnight. It requires planning and a bird eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed up by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues who can do their job. So, on behalf of Government Lahiri PG College Chinviri and my own behalf, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to chief guest of this session, Professor S.N. Upadhyay, for gracing the occasion and sharing his valuable experiences and knowledge and giving an overview on all the topics that we have covered. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation to chief guest of the inaugural session, Professor Singh sir, for igniting the mind of young researcher, including me. We are grateful to Dr. Yani Kumar Rao for delivering very valuable lecture in today's session. I would like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to all the eminent speakers of the previous session, started from day one. I must mention their names: Professor Nagendra Kumar sir, Professor Gyan Prakash Singh sir, Dr. Jay Parmanik sir, Dr. Sanjeev Mahajan sir, Dr. Vishwaranjan Patel sir, Dr. Shailesh Kumar Dwivedi sir. I am extremely thankful to all of you. Then I am very grateful to our principal and patron, Professor Aarti Tiwari Madam, because of her encouragement and support. We are able to organize such event. I am extremely thankful to Dr. Ashish Kumar Pandey, organizing secretary, for taking care of all the things like setting feedback and sharing it to participants and handling sessions, etc. I am thankful to members of organizing committee for their cooperations and useful suggestions. Then I am highly thankful to Prakash Shukla for all the technical assistance like creating links of registration, feedback, Zoom meeting and handling YouTube live feedback, etc. So I express my heartfelt thanks to all the participants for their active participation and overwhelming response. Once again, thanks to all. One thing more, I request to all the participants to keep patience for getting e-certificates because per day we can send only 100 certificates. Thank you. और आप सभी को विश्व हिंदी दिवस की असीम शुभकामनाएं। इस अवसर पे मैं कुछ इस इवेंट के दौरान कुछ कमेंट्स साझा करना चाहती हूँ कि कुछ प्रतिभागियों के कमेंट्स ऐसे थे कि प्योर इंग्लिश का यूज करिए क्योंकि ये एक नेशनल वर्कशॉप है, जबकि हिंदी एक हमारी राष्ट्रभाषा है और तो हमें इसका सम्मान करना चाहिए और ऐसा नहीं कि ये कोई एक रीजनल लैंग्वेज है। तो सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।